Welcome my guest for this evening, Arkhand.
Hi, it's me, your favorite purple guy.
Hooray, purple guy!
There we go.
Oh,
Ooh.
we're good?
Yeah, I'm just admiring the setup because it's been a while since I've seen it.
Yeah, that's right, actually, that this is not your first time on the show. That you were on about 2 months ago now for the Sana Send-Off show. And
oh my god, it was 2 months ago?
Just about, yeah, that we're on September 27th. So actually, yes, that would make it almost 2 months to the day.
Wow.
Time does fly. And actually, appropriately enough, just earlier this afternoon, Astro Girl hit 1 million views on YouTube.
I saw. I'm so happy. That's like so deserved too.
Yes. Yeah, indeed. Sana is eternal. Sana is big. You are not alone. Banger of a song. Really happy to see it getting the support, and we all hope that she is doing well wherever she is, whatever she is up to. But anyways, tonight is not about Sana. Last time we were focusing on Sana, and we wanted to talk about Sana, but tonight is about you, Ark. So welcome in. For anybody who might not be familiar with you, if you could introduce yourself.
Sure. So my name is Arkhand. By day, I'm a mental health clinician. By night, I'm a streamer and musician, and always I am a purple magician. I stream maybe 2 to 3 times a week, and I have consistently for a little over 2 years. We stream music production, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, mental health magic, which is on a little bit of a hiatus as we find people to do, but that's probably my most popular series. But other than that, I'm just here to have a good time.
Yes, indeed, and it's the type of thing that I've been aware of you for some time now, mostly through your music. I'm actually not entirely sure where I first saw you, but you've done a lot of BGM for a lot of folks, so even before I saw you streaming, that I had heard your work, and we finally sort of had the chance to interact with the Sana Send-Off show, so I'm glad that that came about, and as soon as we got talking for all that we just sort of wound up falling into conversations, and I was like, all right, we can't, get into just, normal conversation for this Sana Send-Off show, because that was having a lot of folks shuffled in and out for that very particular occasion. But it became pretty apparent pretty quickly. I was like, yeah, I got to just have you back sometime to do a proper show. So here we are.
I'm happy to be here. I'm not gonna lie, I like talking about myself.
To be fair,
it's a guilty pleasure.
I think a lot of people like talking, and a lot of people like talking about themselves, because it just, who better to tell a story about you than you?
Yeah. Maybe there's no shame in it. But I actually said this in a car ride with my dad a couple days ago. We were talking about like whether or not I would want to be a teacher, and I said yes, and I said, well, I like feeling like I'm the expert. And my dad lost his shit. He's like, that is so self-aware, and I said, I am very self-aware.
It's funny because my mother is a teacher that she taught everything from elementary, middle, to high school over 35 years. And one thing I knew very early on is that I did not want to be a teacher because I don't have patience for kids.
Oh.
Just, it's the type of thing of, I have so much respect for teachers. I have so much respect for folks who do that work that, my mom being a teacher meant that I saw firsthand just how much work goes in outside of the classroom. And also it was just having the rare occasion, whether it be that, like, if I was helping out and volunteering for some group and had to, corral a bunch of kids or other things that just circumstantially, I realized very quickly that I would not want to be a teacher, and that also I just, for whatever reason, I think that while I was good at school, I didn't like the idea of being in school even more.
Understandable. I miss school sometimes, not even gonna lie.
I miss college sometimes. I don't.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that's better. Missing college, missing grad school. Yeah, that I'm more with.
Yeah, that elementary school was fine. Middle school can die in a fire. High school is all right for me, actually. But obviously, I will very much agree with the general sentiment that I won't go as far as saying college is necessarily the best years of your life, but college is going to be a better time than primary education, no doubt.
That is a better way to put it. I actually think it's very foolish to say college is going to be the best years of your life, because it's like, what, are you going to peak at 20? Like,
Yeah,
no.
seriously. But
Yeah, for real.
it's just so much more liberating when, one, you're going to have a lot more agency over the classes that you take, a lot more freedom, and that for me, that one thing I'm very open about is I went to the University of Maryland, and Maryland has a large, gorgeous campus, a ton of on-campus groups, a lot of really cool facilities, and that I was able to make use of all the resources that were there. But I know, some folks want to have a very small college experience. Some people prefer to go to one that's even bigger than Maryland. And the fact that there are so many colleges, financial stuff aside, just setting all the financial BS aside, because it is BS, but the fact that you are able to hopefully have a college of choice that is to your taste, and that there are so many different colleges with so many different vibes of their own, I think is another factor of it. That, you have some level of agency in your environment.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know, I was really nervous at first, and I think my college experience was very, very formative, but I definitely think, like, I definitely did not peak in college. I can tell you guys that. I didn't peak in grad school either. I think now, I'm approaching that more and more. Everyone's like, oh, the 20s is actually rougher than everyone says. And then there's also, like, everyone's like, oh, your 30s are better. Well, I'm turning 30 next year, which is not a secret. So, I mean, hey, maybe the best years are yet to come.
Okay, so we are about the same age, because I turned 30 earlier this year.
Let's go.
Let's go. Yeah, no, we're the boomers of the community. The folks who are in the late 20s, early 30s are somehow, we're in our grandpa arc somehow for the community. And that's a terrifying thing, but also sort of a cool thing that I feel folks our age are right in that perfect area where we grew up with technology, in that we remember dial-up. We remember the when you would log in for, just a welcome, you've got mail.
Yup.
But at the same time, it meant that it means that we have adapted. We have gone from that to what we have now, and that since we were growing up in that time, it means we grew up with rapid changes in technology, in that we just rolled with those punches. And I think that folks our age are probably better equipped than folks who are older than us or younger than us to really go with technology changes, because folks who are older than us spent half their life without it, and that they're the ones that it's going to be the most difficult to pick up. Whereas folks after us, I think the velocity of change in technology has slowed a bit, not a ton, but a bit. And the fact that we've gone from what was then to now, I feel like we can handle most adaptations.
I'd say so. I think there's a lot. I feel like I was always slow on the uptake because, like, I didn't get an iPod, or I didn't get like a smartphone until after that time had passed. And like, I wouldn't say I was raised in a strict household, but I was raised in one that was very, like, aware of the impact of technology on us. And my parents didn't shelter us, but they were definitely, like, cautious in, like, a good way, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah. That
I was like, I want a smartphone, I want this, and all this kind of stuff. But my parents were like, no, you don't need it. But they were right, like, you didn't need it.
Yeah. That, and especially in the early days, that it was definitely not a necessity. That I did not get a cell phone until I think I was a freshman in high school. And that
sounds about right.
And that was because I was staying after school for stuff like band and drama and all that stuff. And it made sense to make it that I could contact them when I needed to be picked up and stuff. But I didn't get a smartphone. It was either senior year of high school or freshman year of college. I think it was right before I went to college that I got my first proper smartphone. And at that point, it wasn't new. That I feel like the first iPhone dropped when I was a sophomore in high school. So, 3 years after the fact for the first one. But at the same time, the fact that, we've probably had smartphones for, probably a quarter of our lives now, a third of our lives, depending on when you got yours. But that's still, you don't need to be on the bleeding edge of technology to still be adapting at a pretty decent pace.
Correct. I would agree with that.
I'm not even sure how the heck we got to college. I'm trying to remember how we got there. But,
I don't know. We roll with it.
Yep. Welcome to Vtuber Talk. That's how we do here. But for you, if you don't mind, you don't need to say necessarily where you went, but what was your college experience like? That were you involved in a lot of extracurriculars, or was it something that you were a bit more focused on studies?
So I went to, I won't say where, but I will say I went to a smaller liberal arts college because I wanted two things. I wanted a good psychology major, and I wanted a marching band experience that was immersive but not too demanding. And I got exactly what I asked for in terms of both of those. So I declared my psychology major right away, which I honestly think for any prospective psych majors in the chat, or anyone who listens to the VOD, I would, if you're going to psych and you know that you're going to psych, declare right away, because that is surprisingly competitive. And I would say the experience was overall good. It was like you had a community. Even if you didn't know people, you could recognize people. I said, hey, I'm going to get all Bs, like B averages or higher. That's exactly what I did. Some classes I had to bust my ass a little harder than for others, and it was definitely tough. But also, I think a big part of it for me was just like the social. I grew socially so much in college, and I'll get to the mental health aspect and stuff, right? Because I wanted to be a therapist ever since I was 15. So that's always been an interest to me. But a big thing for me was like before college, and I'm gonna say that. I don't know if am I allowed to say this word. I'll censor myself.
Oh yeah, no. The rating of VTuber Talk slides entirely with the guest, as long as you're not saying like something wildly offensive.
Oh no, yeah.
And I don't think that you would. Don't worry. I've had some very profane guests on, but I've also had some very family friendly ones. So whatever you're good with is fine with me.
Well, so my mindset in high school was starting to shift towards a certain word that begins with I and ends with cell. If you catch my drift. That's a word Twitch does not like. But then I hit college and like all of that went out the window. Like I was just like, what am I like? Why am I sad? Like stop. Like I could just chill. And once I took like this new mindset, I was like, wow, what I could like. Everyone likes me. This is awesome. It's like imagine that.
Being a pleasant person makes people like you.
Right.
What?
Like I don't know. I just like got immersed in what I was doing. I was like having fun, and like that happened twice because of that happened mostly my freshman year and then my junior year. I don't know what happened to me, but I became like an extrovert for like a month my junior year, and like I was like friendly to everyone, and all my other friends were like, "Ark is so social now. What happened?" And I was like, I don't know, but it was working. I made a whole different group of friends. Some were in band that I didn't know, some were outside, and I still talk to a good chunk of them today. So yeah, I'd say the experience was very, very good for me socially, and I think it was the building block to me being the Ark that you see right here.
That's fantastic. And also, by the way, you did in fact say the magic words, marching band.
Yeah.
Because I was in marching band from throughout high school and college.
Me too.
For high school, it was audition based because the way that it worked in my high school was there were 3 band classes. That there was beginning band, intermediate band, and then the high level band, which is called the symphonic band. And the symphonic band for the first quarter of the school year was the marching band. That way we were able to use the class time to rehearse, and we only had 3 after-school rehearsals a week because we already had 5 per week, and because it was built in that way. So it actually meant that you didn't have to have a super crazy level of after-school commitment. But because of that, there was auditions for that because this was just the highest level band for the other 3 quarters of the year. And I was fortunate enough to get in as a freshman, but it's not because I was really good. It's because I played trombone and they had no trombones. And
so trombones, eh?
Trombones, yeah. No, I've been loving seeing the trombone game that's been going around right now.
Oh yeah.
What is it?
Trombone Champ. I streamed that on Sunday.
Yeah, yes, it is a entirely inaccurate representation of trombone, but I'm glad to see the trombone getting any limelight at all. So
The game is fun. I'm not gonna lie. The game is pretty fun.
And honestly, like trombones, at least for my experience, trombones are the fun ones. The trombonists are prone to silliness, and boy, if that game isn't silly, it feels like it was made by a trombonist, even if it's not a technically accurate one. Obviously, it has that trombone spirit.
It does. So I actually played trombone. I played all three low brass: trombone, euphonium, tuba. My main was euphonium, but I was like basically forced to do tuba because like we didn't have tuba.
Needed more tubas. Mm-hmm.
And they were like, "Oh, Ark, you're interested. You're a tuba player now." And I was like, "Excuse me?" And then sure enough, that like they needed it so bad. They're like, "Okay, you're an orchestra now. You don't have to audition. You're just in." And I was like, what? Okay. So, I did marching band, the highest level band in college, which is like the Wind Symphony. That's the one you had to audition for. I did orchestra. I did like the symphonic band in college. I was president of the Jazz Society. I did like everything.
Hell yeah.
So I didn't make it into jazz band, and honestly, it's probably good that I didn't because I wasn't that good at jazz, but I just wanted to give it a shot. And jazz band is very intense. Where I went. It was like everyone there was crazy talented. So, and jazz was never my thing. I was always more of like a slow classical kind of person. I think my tone quality reflects that, I think. And as some of you guys know, this is a shameless plug right here. I did my first original song. I started writing it in March, and I finished it and put it out in early July. That has me on trombone and euphonium. So
nice.
You gotta keep the music alive somehow, right?
Mm-hmm. And honestly, that's been the one thing that sadly has sort of slipped away from my life since I graduated, because shortly after graduating, I moved and now live in a small studio apartment. And you can't exactly play trombone in a small studio apartment. And it's the type of thing that it's difficult to find opportunities to play an instrument if you're not in a community where you already know folks, and if you are not trying to be semi-professional. There are very few adult, casual orchestra opportunities.
I think there are if you look for them, but they're kind of hard to find.
I had difficulty finding them, but I had a lot of other things come up which filled that time, and it's the type of thing that I played in alumni band once or twice for the for marching band, so I've still picked up trombone, and I know I could still play it if somebody asked me to, and it is something I miss a little bit, but at the same time, I just made so many good memories and friendships that even if it's not a major part of my life, it's something that will always be part of who I am.
I think I'm lucky in terms of like first of all, let me say this. I think you can find that opportunity. And I hope you do, because I think music should be, if music was a part of your life, it should never leave. That's a very biased opinion. I was lucky because I don't live that far from my parents, so I'd like literally call my mom, be like, "Hey, I'm coming over to record trombone." She'd be like, "Okay, sure, we'll clear out of that room." Like they literally like did not care. They were so supportive. They were like, "Oh, what's your song about?" And I was like, "I say fuck in it. I don't think you guys want to hear me say that." And my mom was like, "Yeah, I'd rather not, but like you do you," this sort of deal. And I was like, "Thanks,
supportive parents.
Thanks, Mom."
We love to see it.
I was like, "Thanks, Mom." I knew I could count on you. But yeah, they're all for it. That song is I know we have this later on, but I'm going to talk about Vent right now if you don't mind.
Please.
Just because it's really important to me. So I wrote Vent earlier this year because I was just struggling mentally, and I struggle mentally on and off, and it was basically about like imposter syndrome and thinking like, am I even worthy enough for my friends? Am I worthy enough to be in a content creator space? All that kind of thing. And I've been a content creator for way longer than VTubing. I was making music very, very casually. And Vent is exactly what it sounds like. It's supposed to be like venting out like how it feels. Well, with my personal awareness of like, this isn't right. Like this is like half the stuff my brain tells me isn't true. Like there's do I have the lyrics? Hold on, let me pull the lyrics real quick. I need to make a second one. I have. Let me get out of my YouTube thing. I was, you know that that TikTok where the guy, I don't watch TikTok, but I like this one where the guy throws up the balloon and he says something in French.
I do not see many
Okay.
TikToks.
I don't know.
I don't have TikToks that if it makes
Good.
it to my Twitter feed or like the rare times that I check Facebook, that's how I see TikToks, but it's pretty few and far between.
Got it. Okay. So here's the first line of Vent. And I'm not going to sing it. I'm going to, because I'm shy, I'm going to say it. So it's, imposter syndrome, get out of my head. You're always making me think that my friends think I'm dead and I'm worthless. That's not what they said, but it's hard to see that when your brain's full of dread. So
Yep,
you can...
an accurate representation of brain gremlins, but at the same time, it's a good thing that you recognize, okay, I acknowledge that I am having these thoughts, but I equally acknowledge that I know they aren't true, even if the emotional hit is real. The fact that you have enough awareness to fight back against it says a lot.
Yes, that's what part of this song is, because I was hoping, it's me. It's a very selfish song because it's me talking, but I've had so many people like, wow, so relatable, Ruthie. Which, I mean, it's supposed to be, too, because, the part of this is hopefully, somebody can find relatability.
I know very few people who don't have those types of self-doubt at least every so often. I think it's a very human thing.
I think so too, but it's it felt nice to get into the song
and
to make it ska.
Put it into words.
Yep, and I think ska fit it very, very well because, ska's my favorite genre of music. We're both trombone players. We can obviously see why.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And and ska is yeah, my life sucks, but I'm gonna make it a banger out of it.
Hell yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and I was it's perfect.
Yes, absolutely. I think so. I have not gone to many non-orchestral concerts that I've been to a good number of those in terms of what I would call, I don't want to call them pop concerts or real concerts, but, a non-orchestral concerts really is the best phrase I have for it, where, it's going to be a very loud venue. My first concert ever was for Streetlight Manifesto.
Okay. I have... They're not my favorite ska band, that's all I'm going to say.
That's fine.
But I'm glad you saw them. Ska concerts are dope.
That I think I've seen them 3 times, actually. Not any of the recent ones. I did see Real Big Fish once. That was a fun one.
So I've seen Real Big Fish 3 or 4 times. And if you've seen... I love Real Big Fish. If you've seen one of their live shows, you've seen all of them because their set list has not changed in a decade.
Yeah, that's true. That so you said Streetlight Manifesto is not your favorite ska band. Who is?
Big B and the Kids Table from Boston, Massachusetts.
Ooh, I haven't heard their stuff in a long time, but that's a name that you never forget because it's such a good name.
They were all, at some point in the band, they were all named D. There's David McWayne, who I've met in person. He is an angel, nicest guy ever. And I don't know. Oh, they're just so good. His singing voice isn't for everybody, but goddamn, Big D, so good. Also, they have one of the most intense mosh pits I've ever had the pleasure or misfortune in being in, depending on how you view it.
Oh, that I was never brave enough to go into mosh pits. That even when I was attending the concerts, that I would be, either far enough forward that the mosh pit was right behind me, or off to the side. That I liked watching mosh pits. I thought it was super exciting and cool, and the folks that go in, have total reckless abandon, and I respect the hell out of it. I was not about to jump in there because I am relatively small.
Yeah, fair. So I am not small. I'm not skinny. I'm not huge, but I'm definitely a big person. I stand at 6 feet. So usually I'm the tallest guy there. But if I see a guy 6'1", I'm like, nope, that guy's gonna lawnmower me to death. I've been there.
That I grew a fair bit throughout college. That freshman year of college, my parents could pick me out in the marching band because I was one of the shortest folks there and at that point I was probably around 5'5", and I'm about 5'10", 5'11" ish now. So, I'm not,
That's
I'm
not
not,
that short at all.
no. I said I was relatively small, not relatively short, that I am very thin. I am relative beanpole. And it's the type of thing that I knew that it would not take much for somebody in a mosh pit to just truck me.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I've seen like some of those skinny guys. They know how to throw hands.
Yeah, that's fair. But this was also, I went to these concerts when I was several inches shorter than I am now.
Got it. Gotcha. That makes sense. Man, I'm glad we had the ska concert experience.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I would totally go to another one again today. I'd still probably avoid the mosh pit. But that's just sort of my general mood. But I would absolutely hack into, a small sweaty venue and just have a good time.
That sounds like fun. I missed that. I guess that's one thing I've missed from like Warped Tour being gone and then COVID is that I haven't been to something like that in like 3-4 some years. And they were fun. I would go to Warped Tour every year. It was totally worth it.
Oh, nice. That I only went to Warped Tour for like a day once.
Oh yeah, it's only one day.
Still... Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Because they travel. Yeah, it's only for a day.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you went one day, that's perfect. Yeah, it's perfect. I'm glad you got to go at least once.
Yeah.
If anyone has a time machine, you should go to Warped Tour.
Yeah, that it was so cool, and maybe part of it is also just that I don't really have much other concert festival experience. That talk convention experience. That's my jam. I could talk about conventions all day, but I can talk a lot of the differences. I don't have a very good vantage point to compare Warped Tour to other festivals or outside concerts because even the few I went to for Streetlight, for other ones, those were indoor venues, not the outside festival.
That's true. Yeah, I haven't been to like an overnight fest or anything. I don't think I want to either, to be honest.
I think I would go if it was with the right group of friends.
The right group of friends, you also have to trust the crowd is the thing. That's what I'm more worried about.
Fair, very fair.
People are like, "Oh, try this drug, dude." I'm like, I got a license to keep. I can't take that. I'm like, hey man, you go rock out. That's fine. I just don't want any of that. That's just me though.
Wrapping back around, so what was your marching band experience?
So I started on trombone when I was in 9th and 10th grade, and then I switched to baritone, and I played baritone for 11th, 12th, and then all throughout college. Honestly, here's the funny thing. So most people would bond really well with their section. Like, I got along well with the low brass, but I actually found myself at home in the alto saxophone section.
Okay.
And that was mostly in college. Is that I befriended the alto saxophones, and it wasn't just like the people in my age group. It was like all the alto saxophones, with a few exceptions. I like, they're like, "Oh, Ark, you're just part of us now," and I was like, "Okay."
Yeah, it was not uncommon for sections to adopt individuals, and that, I do subscribe to the theory that certain instruments attract certain types of people, and that
I think so too.
You definitely see a level of consistency. There's obviously exceptions to the rule that it is not a absolute of, if you play trombone, you are this, if you play flute, you are that. But I've seen enough data points to say, correlation does not equal causation, but that there is absolutely correlation.
Yes, I agree. I could spout off like what each stereotype the instrument is.
Oh yeah.
But I think most people would agree with them.
It's a thing of, if you've been in band, if you know, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's never even a thing of like insulting or looking down on other sections. It's just sort of, like I said, you notice trends in that, certain types of people, for whatever reason, trend toward certain instruments, and I think it's super cool. But at the same time, that the band experience of getting all these different types of people who are, in terms of personality, gonna be really distinct, and just that it's a really fun and special group dynamic and mentality of working toward that common goal of putting on the best performance possible.
That's the thing I want to see if you like this too. Is like the best part about it was all collaborative.
Oh yeah.
You know, like everyone does their part, everyone does it, and you're doing this great thing together. And when you're in a group of, 30, 60, 120, however, if you went to a big college, there's probably like 300 people. It was just, and then like everybody won. There was no like, I thought frankly, and I know some people like hardcore marching band people are going to spear me for this. I did not like competitive marching band at all. I thought it was dumb. I didn't like half the stuff they had you do. I thought it was pointless. But like when the hell is about face ever relevant in a marching band show? Like that shit drove me nuts.
I've seen about face be a relevant thing, like if you're looking for a particular pop moment where you're just gonna get everybody to do the thing.
Well, yeah, like the maneuver is important, but they're like, detail about face. I was like, no, like the drum major's not gonna call that in the middle of the show.
No, not in the middle of the show. No, that's when you're trying to get the band set for the show. If you're trying to move them from point A to point B to set for the show, that you might use that. And yeah, that you mentioned actually a small marching band feel in it was something for you. Maryland actually had that. So Maryland's marching band, so the Mighty Sound of Maryland, at least when I was there, was somewhere in the 200s, like 230, 40-ish. But there was no audition. You auditioned for your seating placement and, where you're going to play first, second, third part or whatever. But at least when I was there was no entry audition with the exception of drumline, I think.
Oh, okay. So that's so interesting. So I actually looked at Maryland as one of the colleges I went to. I didn't go to Maryland, I'll tell you that. But I didn't know that about their marching band. I guess I didn't do enough homework.
And that I probably would have gone to Maryland regardless, that there were a lot of things that I liked about it anyways, but that was something that I was really excited to see because I also did not want a super hardcore one. I wanted a marching band that was going to be fun, that was going to, put on a good show, but that wasn't going to be something that it was my entire life, that I was able to be in marching band and be in a whole bunch of other groups as well, that we had game days notwithstanding, it was 4 rehearsals a week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. No, sorry, it was Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for 2 hours each day, which, that's 4 days a week, but at 2 hours per session, that's not actually a huge weight on your schedule.
Right. We were looking for the same marching band experience, and I think we both found it.
Yeah.
It sounds like to me.
Yeah, and just in high school, it was competitive style, and that's usually how it goes for it. I loved watching DCI performances. Never had the interest in participating in DCI.
Yeah. I don't know. DCI, like, I think you need a very, how do I put this nicely, disciplined personality to do DCI. That is very intense.
Mm-hmm.
Drum Corps International, for anyone in chat, it's like the cream of the crop marching band.
Yeah,
it is extremely good. Crazy.
Yeah, that basically there is no professional marching band for adults. DCI is the closest thing that you get to professional marching band, but there's an age limitation. I think it's like
there is
16 to 22 or something. That it's meant to be for folks.
That sounds correct.
That it's supposed to be for folks in high school and college as a supplementary thing for like Ark was saying, the cream of the crop. It's not something that adults are going to be into, but it is a whole culture. And to be fair, the stuff they put on the field is immaculate. It's so impressive.
It's theater. It's literally theater.
Yeah. And
actually, it was funny because there was a trend, and I actually watched this trend unfold, where every show had the drum major kill the other drum major in like a theatrical style, and the other drum major took over, and then like every band started doing that for the next like 3 years.
That's actually kind of funny, and I respect the hell out of it.
It was cool, but I was like,
because at that point you have to be in on the joke, and that it's obviously going to be done in good fun. So I can appreciate that.
Well, I mean, like, I think the first one was like almost like 300, the marching band show, which was phenomenal. What was that, Phantom Regiment? I like remember the name. How do I remember that? That's crazy.
Because you never forget a badass name like Phantom Regiment.
Yeah, you're right. That's actually a badass name. Yeah, but they were the first show that did that. I remember the whole theater watching. It was like, yo, like losing their minds over marching band. But it's funny because when you think about it, the only people that are going to be there watching it are the parents or other people in marching bands. Because but it's crazy because I think marching band is something that everybody can appreciate. It's music. Yeah. It's music with some theatrics to it. I think everyone can appreciate what goes into it. It's just kind of slept on.
And I feel like, you know, if you're ever at a football game, that most folks are going to stick around for the halftime show. Then most folks, if you put a marching band in front of them, will smile and say, yeah, that's really cool. And it's just very few folks seek out marching band. And DCI is something that you have to seek out.
Oh, that's a really good point. I never thought of it that way. You're right. Because if you're like, oh, the marching band's here, we might as well watch it. But you're not going to be like, I'm going to look for marching band unless you're in it. You're right.
And I don't even think that it's something that people would not necessarily want to. I think it's a combination of ignorance and also, to be fair, on part of DCI, that they don't advertise in a lot of mainstream ways. At least not that I've seen. That I've never encountered it in the wild. That it's the type of thing I think, you know, you went out of your way to explain the acronym Drum Corps International because we know that most folks aren't even aware of it. And I think that sort of speaks the volumes of that it's not necessarily that people are sleeping on it or don't have the interest. It's just that there's very, very low awareness.
I think so. I've seen it advertised a couple times, but it was like for like some theater event that they always
there was a Fathom event. That's like the
Fathom again. That was it. You're correct.
That was the one time I've seen in the wild, and I did absolutely go to that Fathom event screening because if you can see a DCI event in person, do it absolutely. And there's going to be a difference between seeing it in person in a theater, but seeing it in a theater is going to be magnitudes better than watching it on YouTube, which is the other option if you're not going to see it in person. Seeing it in the theater actually was really cool.
I can imagine.
Because the sound system is just going to be better.
True. I agree with that. We're culturing chat and marching band.
Hell yeah.
I mean, it was a huge social experience for both of us.
Oh yeah.
Like social is the reason you do marching band. You don't, the marching is great, the music's better, the social experience is why you do it.
Yeah. I'm curious, what was the relative presence of music majors in your marching band? Because for the Mighty Sound of Maryland, I would say about 5% of the band was music majors. And then it was just a smattering of everything else. That I was one of the only folks in the band from the business school. I would say the most populous college from on campus was the engineering school, and it wasn't close. There was a ton of engineers, everything from comp sci, electrical, mechanical engineers, you name it. There were a ton of engineers in that band.
I think for us, music major, like there was lots of music majors that didn't do marching band. It was a good chunk, and they were like the very vocal, like, so I was a music minor. Let me put it that way. So I decided right before college that this will be relevant later on, that I decided I did not want to double major in music because I thought it was going to suck the fun out of it for me. And after seeing what being a music major was like, after seeing my partner at the time do a music major, bless her soul, she's doing wonderful. She's doing music full time now. I'm really happy for her. And like just seeing like what that was like, I was like, I made the correct decision.
Yeah, that I had a couple of friends who were music majors and a couple that were music minors, and I took one glance at it and said, I'm happy for you. I will stay over here and continue to play trombone in these, student organizations and the marching band, and I'm going to have a great time. You have a great time over there. I am not interested in that level of intensity. Thank you very much.
Oh, Jay, you're going to like this. So, I took music theory, right? It was my very first college class. And so I played trombone and trombone only, right? So guess what was my kryptonite the second I walked into that room? If I only played trombone.
If you only play trombone, that means that you're only used to an instrument in the key of C.
I was only used to you're close. I was only used to an instrument in bass clef, which is on my Thai thing right now.
Yeah,
There's a reason that Thai thing, it's on my VTuber model. It's there for a reason. So yeah, so I see everything's in treble clef, and I'm like, oh fuck.
Oh, yeah, no. Because at first I was like, is it that it's a C instrument? But the thing is, C instrument is the neutral one. So if anything, that should be a boon. But that was the only thing I didn't even think. And as soon as you said treble clef, it was like just clicked in my head. Oh, of course. I'm so out of it with treble clef, I just forget it exists.
I'm very proud of this. In the first 2 weeks of college, I studied 2 to 3 hours a day, forcing myself to learn treble clef. You better believe I knew treble clef the time that first exam rolled around 2 weeks into college.
Yeah.
and everyone was like, and then like because I was busting my ass, I'm gonna flex a little bit because I'm really proud of myself.
Flex, man, do it.
Well, I went to every single like study hall. I went to every single thing. Everyone's like Ark is like busting his ass to make sure he passes this class. And halfway through, I'm teaching the music majors counterpoint, which is like the backbone of yeah.
Oh, hell yeah, that's awesome.
So I'm a big believer that hard work will beat talent if talent also does not work hard.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And that was one of those instances. That's like one of my big accomplishments is making it through music minor with this crazy hardcore guy who would always flex. He went to Juilliard. He was the professor. He loved me. He actually really liked me, but he knew that I was like struggling half the time. But
I feel like professors have deeper respect for the students who struggle but do the work than the ones who are the naturally gifted ones, because like you said, that it shows a level of initiative and of actual drive when you can see them putting in that work.
Yeah, and I mean it's that, and I've like never like really thought of myself as naturally talented at anything, because like I was never the type of student, and maybe some of you guys who used to be students or are students can relate to this, and JU too, said I was never the student that just like grasped material right away. I needed to study. I needed to immerse myself in it. Like
I will admit, I was one of those folks. School, most things came pretty naturally to me. Not calculus. Calculus and I don't get along. But basically everything that wasn't basically everything that wasn't calculus came pretty naturally to me. That I would be the type that I would study before exams, but otherwise there wasn't too much that I would just sort of hit a huge roadblock on. That I think that I am generally, like, what's the phrase? I was generally competent at a lot of things. It wasn't like I was, super whiz kid, straight A's, total brilliant, top of the class. But I was, most things came naturally enough that I didn't regularly get stressed out over schoolwork.
That's nice, right? Because then you could probably appreciate your college and school experience more for stuff outside of academics, though. So there's something to appreciate about that.
Yeah, that I had to study just enough in middle school and high school to the point where I didn't have to learn how to study in college, which was something that some folks did have to do. That, you hear a lot of stories of kids who just breeze through elementary, middle, high school, get to college, and are suddenly in over their head, but don't know how to study and just really struggle. And
yeah, you're right. I see that a lot.
And I was just enough before that point to where I knew how to study, and definitely am thankful for that.
Learning how to study is probably the biggest thing you got to learn either the hard way, because everyone studies differently, right? So
Mm-hmm.
what was your the TLDR of your big study strat?
My study strat, and I discovered it in sophomore year, that I did what would be considered pretty standard studying procedure up through freshman year, and it worked fine. But then there was one day that it was before the exam that I was just tired for some reason. I have no idea why. I wasn't sick or anything. It was just one of those days where you're tired. And I said, okay, I know I'm not going to be able to study effectively right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to bed at like 8 p.m.
Oh.
And I'm going to wake up at 2 a.m. I'm going to go and I'm going to go to the library and I'm just going to study for 6 hours until my 8 a.m. final, take my final, then go back to my apartment and crash. And it was the most effective studying I'd ever had. And from then on, my strategy for studying in college was I would do some basic studying up until the day before that. I would not do a ton. But what I would do is I would wake up at 2, and most of my exams were at like 8 a.m., 10 a.m. I just sort of scheduled them that way. That I would go to the library at 2 a.m. when it was super quiet and there was people there because it was exam week. So there was always stuff going on at the library, but it was much less crowded than it would be. That usually there would be like a dozen people around at that hour. So I would just go in, I would plug in my laptop, I would get one of the study desks because there were plenty available at that hour, and I would just grind it out for 6 hours. And it meant that, everything's fresh in your memory. Like, nothing has the chance to fade because it is all... I have literally looked at this in the past couple of hours. Go in, do pretty damn well on the exam, then go to my apartment and sleep.
That's so interesting because what a lot of people do is they do like the opposite of what you do, where they stay up and like barely sleep before.
Mm-hmm.
But
and then,
you got the 6 hours of sleep down.
That's the thing. That was the strategy because I knew that I just the other piece is I don't think people study well when they're tired.
No.
The whole thing is that I wouldn't study tired. I would be starting to study fresh off of sleep. And yeah, it's a weird hour of day, but I still got to sleep. And it meant that I wasn't waking up right before the exam and still being a bit slow mentally, that by the time the exam rolled around, I'd been up for 6 hours. So I was raring to go, but it wasn't like I had a full day behind me already and I'm at the point of exhaustion. That's when you're hitting your stride.
I think he's got the strat, guys.
Like, it worked for me. I'm not going to say it works for everyone, but it wasn't until after that first go around that I realized, wait a minute, there's actually a lot of these factors that just make sense for why it worked.
My experience was similar, but it was I would study until like midnight, and then I would sleep from midnight until 6. And then I'd wake up and study from like 6 to 10 when my exam was.
Okay, yeah. So that's basically the same thing. Just you put,
shifted a bit.
Yeah, shifted a bit. But the idea of waking up some amount early on the exam day, getting in a good chunk of study, not just all right, a quick 30-minute refresh, but actually having a significant study session in the hours directly preceding the exam.
Yep. And you got the studying before you went to bed too, with that scheduled, and
yeah.
So it's like everything's a review when you wake up.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yo, we combined. We got the strat.
Yeah.
That's the strat. I'm gonna need to know. I have to take my licensing exam at some point. My job is really pushing me to upgrade my therapy license. So now we got the strat.
Yep.
I'm gonna try that.
Yeah. Definitely. Let me know how it goes. That fingers crossed. Like I said, I feel it sounds weird the first time you say it, but when you sort of step back and like look at it, it's not actually that crazy. I don't think.
I don't think it is. I think it it worked for both of us, and like I imagine both exams we did were for very challenging subjects, and like you have to do some prep work. Like that can't be the only time you study. Like for me, I need to be studying like the whole week or two before.
Yeah, I had certainly done amounts of studying before, but it would be little bits and pieces here and there. That was my day before strategy, when I knew, all right, I'm just focusing on this one exam or two exams. That fortunately I didn't have too many instances in college where it was double exam days, but at the very least, usually if that was the case, I would find a way to split it.
Yeah, there we go. The splitting, it's the strat, the chunking, we call it.
Hopping back to marching band, and I suppose, did you have an interest in composition before or after you got heavily involved with marching band?
So this is a great segue because this is a story I love telling. So composition, I was only interested in marginally through music major. Marching band didn't really have that much to do with it, honestly. But so my college experience did not prepare me for what I do today, other than the very basics, the foundations, and basic chordal structure. But my story about how I got into composition was that the summer of 2013, I was watching like Shofu, who does competitive Pokemon videos, and he was playing a Pokemon fan game called Pokemon Reborn. And I was like, oh, cool, I want to play that. That looks really dark and edgy for a Pokemon game. So I downloaded it. And the soundtrack was all done from scratch. And I was like, hey, yo, this kind of bops. Who did this? And I found out the composer is Glitch X City, who is exactly the same age as me. Fun fact. So back on Tumblr, I DM'd Glitch, and I said, hey, I really like your work. What program do you use? And she told me, I use FL Studio. So because of her, I downloaded FL Studio, and I taught myself digital composition. I started by like remixing Attack on Titan original theme. I started remixing Pokemon BGMs. Yeah, the Attack on Titan, the first opening is the first thing I did when I opened FL Studio. Was it good?
No.
No.
The fact that you said that you looked at Maryland now has me, combined with everything that we've already done, we've only been at this for an hour. So I am already 100% convinced that there is an alternate timeline where you did decide to go to Maryland.
Oh, totally.
And you and I met each other, and that we've known each other for years. Because there's a lot of overlap we're hitting already. And of the things that we discussed earlier in the week, there's a lot of overlap there.
There is.
There's a timeline where we knew each other prior to VTubing, and I'm very confident in that.
Yeah, who's to say that we couldn't cross paths later and the timelines wouldn't converge, though, eh?
Yeah, who knows? Because at the University of Maryland, there is a group called the Gamer Symphony Orchestra.
What?
Yep.
What the fuck? I want in. I want to play in that now.
And that
what?
that was the final hook for me on going to Maryland, actually.
Fuck, man.
For that, it is a student-run ensemble of approximately 90 instrumentalists and 30 chorus. And as the name suggests, it is entirely video game music, arranged vast majority by the members of the group. That there's not a lot of video game music to be purchased. The group has never purchased any arrangements. They've been given arrangements on rare occasion by composers, actually, that we worked with Austin Wintory and became the first group outside the recording studio to perform I Was Born for This, the final song of the game Journey. We got a piece from David Arkenstone for World of Warcraft.
What?
Yep. And I said that one knowing that you like World of Warcraft.
He's inspired me so much.
We got given one other piece from Shota Nakama and the video game orchestra. We got their arrangement of Gusty Garden Galaxy from Super Mario Galaxy. But basically everything else, there's like a handful of pieces that I've forgotten here, but basically everything else arranged in-house by the members using Sibelius and Note Flight and Finale were the ones primarily used.
Yeah, all those are really expensive though.
Yeah, that we had a semi-legal version of Sibelius that was distributed to folks who were looking to do arrangements. But we had a concert every semester, and it was a full concert, and that was a big part of my college experience. And the fact that you got into composition because of video game music is the other reason of why I am so damn confident that we would have crossed paths, because I have no doubt that had you been at Maryland, you would have wound up in the Gamer Symphony Orchestra very quickly.
Oh, yeah, but I would have joined that in a heartbeat. I probably would have had more fun with that than in Wind Symphony. Although Wind Symphony, very enriching experience. But so let me tell you this: there was a class offered like a year or two after I graduated that was called like scoring for video games, and I was like, if that existed when I was a freshman or a sophomore, I'd be a double major in music, and I'd be like compositionally composing. Now, I will say this though, I don't think that makes that much of a difference, because if you look at other composers, in fact, the vast majority of composers in the community, most of them are self-taught, and I look at them, and they like started composing way further ahead than I did. Like some of them are like 15, 16, or they're older than me, and they started composing when they were 20, like when I really started. But I didn't really hit my stride until like the end of 2018, 2019 is when I thought my stuff started getting like passable, like actually like decent. So I don't know. I think I would have had a lot of fun. I don't know if it would have fully shaped me, but like again, I was self-taught. So it's interesting. Like anything could have happened. Who knows?
Yeah, and that for most of the folks in the GSO, they were self-taught as well, and it was just, over time, people, like, there'd be folks who did arrangements for multiple years, and you could, like, see them getting better, and that, similar to the marching band, there was very few who were involved in terms of music majors. But
yeah, like the passion drives them, and I think the passion is like always gonna. I mean, personally, I mean, knowledge is necessary, but if you're passionate, the knowledge is going to come so much more naturally.
Oh yeah, because you want it,
Yeah.
and it's the type of thing that, especially for arranging versus composing, that it's going to be easier to pick up because the answer is already in front of you. You have the original, and it's just figuring out the tool set and how to replicate what you are hearing. And if you decide to make embellishments and changes, either stylistically or compositionally, you can do that. But most folks, at least for their first go around, would just sort of by ear do their best to reconstruct and create the sheet music from that. But then you'd have more advanced arrangers who would completely change up styles, and others who might do medleys and find these different ways of like embellishing. Also, I see you in those Kamina classes.
We were talking about fun stuff. I had to put it back on.
Yeah. But I suppose that does bring us into another segue of, I assume you got those glasses specifically because they are Kamina glasses?
No, actually. So
no? Okay.
No, they are not Kaminas. I get that a lot because they're red. So basically, my Sona I designed way before VTubing. I designed my Sona in 2016, and the reason I've kept like the purple, the wizard, the hat, and the glasses is because they're all. I basically gave my younger brother, who is an artist, I gave him a bunch of different references. One of them being Squirtle Squad glasses. So that's
Squirtle Squad.
Yeah, that's what these technically are. And I said,
okay,
bro, take these 3 colors, make me an original character. And that's how like the small Ark, who I think is in my YouTube profile picture. Yeah, I think like that's how people probably see him today, because I've like just had like this tall.
I think it's mostly because they're red. Yeah, if those were black, I may have defaulted more mentally to Squirtle Squad, because red is what Kaminas are. But now that you mentioned the Squirtle Squad, I'm seeing that as well.
Yeah. So like the red and black aren't really my colors. I consider red and black as part of my color scheme, as adopted from a friend who died when we were 16. So I kind of just took on the red and black combination and made it my own. Gotcha. And I didn't really like that. It's just like a constant reminder. Like that was a long time ago, but that's just like a little tidbit about the colors. Purple is my favorite color, so of course that's not going on there.
Really? I couldn't tell.
No one knows that purple's my favorite color. I keep my mouth shut pretty well about that, actually.
Don't let anybody know, chat.
No. Don't look
but also,
at my Twitter.
Speaking of purple, I do see another purple friend in the chat. Hi, Vivi. I'm not sure if you're still here. It's been a minute, but...
Hello, Vivo.
Should
you be purple?
Yes. Good purple friend.
No, with the cool purple hair.
Yes, indeed. Hey,
there she is, dude.
Yeah.
True. Purple, best color. No doubt.
It's a very good color. But so gosh, trying to figure out like where we go here, because honestly, I could just get on marching band and video game stuff all day. So I guess the line I want to take next, in terms of video game soundtracks, what are some of your favorites? That we're gonna get to your music pretty soon. And I suppose I'm I have a pretty solid guess as to one of them. So,
So
I'm actually going to change
I
the question. Apart from Animal Crossing and Stardew Valley, what are your favorite video game soundtracks?
So it's funny you mention that. I appreciate them because of the atmosphere they provide. So I'd say my favorite video game soundtracks, World of Warcraft Burning Crusade specifically, has one of my favorite soundtracks. In fact, my favorite soundtrack from World of Warcraft is from a zone that is entirely purple. So, which actually did play a little bit of a role. It's crazy. The zone is called Netherstorm. It has this really dark space ambience, like sort of like this. It gives you like this wow, cool magic space zone, but also gives you this place could collapse at any second, and it's so good. The composer for the first two WoW expansions, it captured ambience perfectly.
Was
Very
that
inspired
Arkhand
by
Stone or was that
I
Brower?
I think both of them worked on it. I don't
Wouldn't
remember.
be surprised. I think that most of the World of Warcraft expansions were not singular. That Russell Brower for a long time was the guy at the helm at Blizzard. That his fingerprints are on
Yep.
most of the not even just the early expansions, like up through the heyday and prime for everything. Neil Acree, I know, did a lot of
Yep.
work. Acree has actually gone on and worked on the soundtrack to, what was it, Legend of Vox Machina. So another very
wow.
nerdy project there. And there's a good number of folks that have been involved over the years.
For real, yeah. So say what you will about WoW in the past, say what you will about it now. Shadowlands was so bad I quit. It was so bad. The soundtrack is always phenomenal. WoW's orchestra, whoever they get for that, knocks it out of the park every single expansion. Does not matter how good it is.
Music
They do
department has
amazing.
never missed a step.
No, Blizzard hires good musicians. I can say that for a fact. I'm missing the most obvious answer. Toby Fox, duh. Toby Fox is Beyond Goals. The Undertale composer.
I feel like, because did Toby Fox do just a song or two, or was he like broadly involved with a particular expansion?
So what Toby Fox? I'm talking about Toby Fox for Undertale specifically now. In terms of other
Oh,
composers.
sorry. I thought you were saying that Toby Fox had worked on World of Warcraft, and I was
No.
like, okay, sorry. Because the thing, honestly,
That'd
if
be
you had told me Toby Fox had worked on World of Warcraft, I would say, yeah, I could believe that. I could absolutely believe that.
I mean,
Because
what
the dude's
hasn't he
worked on
done?
Pokemon, he's done Smash, and just, yeah, I could. If you've
He's-
done those, you
he's
could have done
done
World of Warcraft.
He's done music for HoloLive
He has.
under a
What a
pseudonym.
boss. What a boss.
Yeah, he can do it all. And like I loved Undertale. I loved Deltarune Part 1 was like okay, and then Deltarune Part 2, like there is not a single miss on Deltarune Part 2 soundtrack. Deltarune Part 2 alone is a masterpiece.
It's so good.
And if you're waiting to play it, don't. So I can talk your head off about it. So
I have played through Deltarune Part 1 and 2. I have never played through the entirety of Undertale, but
Really?
I have watched. I have never myself played through the entirety of Undertale, but I
Oh, you
have seen
got
enough
to.
streams
No, you have to.
in different pieces that
You have to.
yes, and I will. But I'm going to say, if
Yeah.
you want to, and I will. I preface this to say, if you want to talk Undertale, you do not need to worry about spoilers because I had encountered all the spoilers. So
Yeah.
don't worry about
Okay.
that.
I actually streamed Undertale like last Halloween, and one of my real life friends came into stream, and I was like at like the final boss of the pacifist route, and he goes, "This is a big spoiler, isn't it?" And I said, "Turn off the stream right now."
Get out.
I was
Yep.
I was like, "Turn off the stream right now. This is such a bad spoiler." I was
And
like, "This is massive."
I know it's a meme, but damn, Megalovania is just such a good song. I'm sorry. I know it's a meme. It's a meme because it is so good.
Megalovania is like half my brand at this point.
Like
it is.
That was actually my first interaction with Undertale. That Megalovania just, and it was probably someone in the GSO. Now that I think about it, that it crossed my timeline at some way, and just I heard it and I was like, I'm now having this on repeat for the next week.
You can't pass it up.
Yeah, so
You
good.
can't. I'm almost at a trend where I might remix it again this year if I have commissions to get through first. But so yeah, but it's so good. It's such a good piece that like I'll never get tired of remixing it. So like, you know, I want to get better at Eurobeat. I can have Turbo take me under his wing when he's not working on super cool stuff. I don't know, I could do more EDM remixes. I could probably do, I don't know. You could do whatever you want with it.
Yeah,
Banger, but...
And just Toby Fox as a whole, you were saying goals of the guy has worked on so much, the stuff he does. I think what Toby Fox is so good at is he is one of the best melody writers I have ever heard.
Yes, so he is, like, he can compose songs entirely made out of existing leitmotifs. Which is insane to me that like he plans that far ahead.
Yeah, and just the whatever he writes is always an earworm, and it's always that main melody, and that's the thing of just, you know, World of Warcraft has some of the best atmospheric work, and that it's gorgeous, but most things that aren't the main theme of an expansion, at least in my opinion, aren't necessarily ones that you're going to have going through your head all day. They aren't necessarily ones you can just sort of pluck out and say, oh, I remember the theme for this broader field or something. There might be certain towns or locales, but what Toby Fox does is that he's not an environmental writer as much as he is a melody writer.
Yup. He writes for characters and moments in the story, which... So, I mean, that's something I really wanted to consider, which Animal Crossing does too, which is what I've been practicing for the past year, and I've been trying to do that for my BGMs.
Yeah, and actually, I suppose, well, first off, also, I do want to clarify that that's not me talking down about environmental writers. I just consider them very different styles.
They are, yeah, totally.
But I think that's a perfect transition into, you are currently in the middle of writing a Animal Crossing / Stardew Valley album that you are writing a full day's worth, so 24 tracks, a la Animal Crossing, where it is a different track for every hour. And I actually have a good number of them here. So as I start to get that queued up, I'd love to hear what the origin of that project is.
Okay, I'm excited to share this. So the album is technically done. Technically. What I did last night on stream is I'm going through I actually saw Daryl Barnes do this on one of her streams for the Uda Live stuff. So I was like, oh, I could do this on stream. Where she went back and like tweaked everything ever so slightly just to like touch it up and make it all around the same quality. So I got through a little over half last night. There's over 24, but that's because I have different variations. So I'm hoping to get that out in a couple weeks. And then everyone can play it as they wish. You asked a question, I'm getting around it. So the question you asked was, how did that idea come about? So last November, I said, like, you know, I'm out of ideas for things to do on stream musically, but I want to like keep fresh. I want to like get up there. So I came up with the idea of, well, what if I made a simple Animal Crossing track, because I can make those in just a couple hours. What if I did that and I spun a random number generator and it gave me a time from
and wrote
0
for that hour
and wrote for whatever it generated. And after the first stream, I was like, this is the best idea I've ever had in forever. And so, sure enough, we started doing it once a month. I started to like it. We did it twice a month. A couple times we did maybe 3 or 4 times in a month, and now we're close to 10, 11 months later, the thing is almost done. And it's been great because doing it on stream helped me be accountable. I couldn't get distracted much because it was on stream. I couldn't I couldn't use too many references because then everyone's like, oh, Ark, this just sounds like this existing piece. So it forced me to learn how to write leitmotifs and melodies better. and it,
And
it forced me to like keep it simple. Like it was it's minimalist. Animal Crossing is supposed to be
mhm,
stuff that you can hear over and over again.
yeah. That currently we have 10:45 playing, and you've marked them all in 24-hour time. So this is 10:45 a.m., which is
Was
you know
top
uh,
3, one of my favorites.
that it's this almost feels not quite ragtime, but that's mostly me just sort of honing in on the piano because this is obviously a
Oh,
super piano heavy piece.
it is
Um,
it is ragtime.
okay, so so it's not
That
just
was
me.
the
Thank
goal.
goodness.
No,
Cool.
no, no, no,
Make
no. That was my intention. So this album, I was like, okay, so for 10, I want something that sounds like you're in like a school classroom, like where you're, like you're just going about your day, everything's
Yeah,
fine.
because it's that
Yeah.
mid-morning type of thing that it's not super early. You're not really into the day yet, though. I love the concept of it being a school classroom because as soon as you said that, it just like I sort of blinked, was like, oh, this is absolutely a classroom theme song.
Yep. So yeah, that's my goal. So this one I based off of 2 things combined, which is Amelia Watson's BGM from DOVA-SYNDROME and also stuff from like the OG Super Mario games.
I as soon as you said Watson, I was like, oh, yep, I hear that in there. A lot of that's in the tone of the piano, actually.
Yep.
Um, and sorry, what was the second part again?
Oh, like Super
The
Mario
Super Mario.
2.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
And then there's the melody in the second half is actually like the main melody for like that you're gonna hear throughout the whole album. Not in every song, but like in maybe like a fourth of the songs.
Mm,
Since that's like the center like main theme. So one thing I did with leitmotifs, and this made writing the album much easier, was like creating like a central theme and
yeah,
reusing like
because
maybe
once you have something that it works, that means that you have a lot of your work done for you as soon as you start the next piece because all right, here's something that I'm importing and I'm going to augment it. I'm going to make it different either stylistically or have some variations on it. But the fact that you don't need to start from total scratch, I have to imagine, is just game changing.
especially in the late game, it definitely was. In the later tracks, that like made a huge difference. And of course, like this, like I couldn't like make swing perfectly, like in the triplet sections because that didn't really fit, and I had to like you have to alter it a little bit to fit the what's going on here. Like this, I changed to fit the chord progression with like those more dissonant notes in the middle of the chord progression.
Mm-hmm.
But no, but the thing is, it forced me to learn how to do that more efficiently. So this whole project was a learning experience, and now I get to like say like after almost a year, if everyone chooses to, or if anyone chooses to, they have BGM, or they can have like that hour-long Nintendo playlist, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not owned by Nintendo, so it's even better because then they will never come to copyright strike it because Nintendo can be scary sometimes, and it's like there's some chill Arkhand beats to stream to or whatever you
Yeah.
want it to be.
Well, actually, prior to this, I had been running with a Nintendo music playlist, and actually, funny enough, this was totally unintentional, obviously, because I didn't know she'd be here tonight. But this was a playlist that I had gotten from Vivi. Funny enough,
Oh, there you
um,
go.
and that I fortunately found that if it's game music, that it's just going to be safe on Twitch.
Oh yeah.
It, obviously, since there's games being played on Twitch, that they're not scanning for it, even if you're not playing the game, that's been safe. But at the same time, uh, the fact that you're constructing this own thing, like you said, that people will be able to use it, that it's just something they can have, is super cool. But also now you have specifically offered as part of your commissions Animal Crossing / Stardew Valley style as a particular thing that people can commission, that you do song commissions of all sorts, but that is a particular subcategory.
It's interesting because not that many people have taken me up on that, but when they do, it's like some of my best work by far.
Well, also,
It's
my guess is
weird.
most folks probably aren't necessarily looking for it yet. I'm guessing that as soon as you release this album, you're going to see a surge in those requests.
I will be happy if I have if people use it at all. Let's go, So I'll just be happy with what I can get. At the end of the day, it would be nice. It would be nice to like get some attention on myself. Obviously, I'm not gonna sugarcoat that. It would be nice to have that, but like this was a me project, and I want it to, it's just gonna be good to capitalize on it, and then I'll probably start something new where like chat will suggest like I want you to write music for I don't know volcano tapeworm boss. I don't know. That was I don't know. That was word vomit. I don't fucking know.
And yet at the same time, as I'm already thinking, all right, I feel like that's gonna be a lower, slower song. I'm thinking a la Bowser's Castle type of feel.
Yeah. See, you could do it.
Mhm.
You could write it.
You can pick the next one. Do you want midnight, 2 a.m., 8 a.m., or 4 p.m.?
4 p.m. is one of the most recent ones. Let's do that.
Alrighty, 4 p.m. The official name for this is 1622.
Yeah, I think this was the last one we did, actually. We did this, like, a couple days ago. So this was, obviously, it's reggae, 420, 422. The bubbles are supposed to sound like a bong, but it's not. I haven't smoked weed in forever.
You says Volcano Tapeworm Boss, Zelda meets Earthworm Jim.
Well, Vivi, you got I was thinking of Zelda.
I was very much thinking of Zelda Boss, and there's also a recent Magic the Gathering card that is basically this giant lava hellion or just worm type thing. I'll send you a picture later, but
oh yeah, I like looking at the funny animals in Magic.
Yeah. But yeah, so this one has some trumpet in it. It has the iconic Animal Crossing, just
the bass.
The bass, yeah. It's a synthesized sound, so it's difficult to put into words what it is, but just tonally, this, as soon as I started listening to it while I was setting everything up in OBS, I was like, oh yeah, this just sounds like an Animal Crossing song.
Yep, and I was like, Animal Crossing Stoner. Also, this one, because it uses trombone, I decided, what if I just throw the bridge section from my original song at the end? Because that was my favorite part of writing the original song. So I was just like, let's just throw that in there. If you know, you know. If you don't, most people won't know, but if you know, you know.
Also, so is it a trumpet or a trombone? It sounds like a trumpet to me, but
it's a high-pitched trombone. It's from the Contact library.
Okay, yeah. Because this is definitely pushing upper range on trombone, and you're gonna get
sounded better.
Yeah, no, that I can totally see that, especially when you're working with a sound library. That there can be tonal things for the instruments that I can totally see where you might want to do that. I never did arrangements for the GSO myself, but I tooled around with some of the arrangement software just enough times to know how to work around them.
Man, composing for GSO. I should do that for fun.
There have been more GSOs than the one at the University of Maryland. That there's probably about a dozen now scattered throughout the country. There's a couple community level ones. That there is the Washington Metropolitan GSO and the Baltimore GSO, which is essentially where a bunch of the alumni went because they still wanted to be in a GSO. And that I
okay, I'm moving to Baltimore. Let's go.
There's a couple in California. There's one at Ithaca, Ithaca College in upstate New York. I don't recall all of them, but they've popped around, and it's the type of thing that if you are someone who is in a high school or college or even community and want to start a GSO, that you can contact them, and they will help you get your organization off the ground, that they will loan out pieces to groups that are just starting. That way you don't need to actually arrange a full concert for your first concert, that you can have some pieces on loan from them. That way you just need to get the folks together to play everything, and that you're going to be able to do that.
Oh man, that sounds great. I'm so glad that exists.
Yeah, it is a really great group, and that it was that and the marching band were the primary friend groups I had in college, so very near and dear to my heart for sure.
Absolutely. Marching band for life.
Yeah. So you said this was one of the most recent pieces that you did.
Yep.
As you've gone through the album, I'm guessing it's gotten a bit more complex, because I'm assuming you want to have each piece be as distinct as possible, And that means as you go along, you're sort of slowly crossing off styles of just what haven't you done yet. And I'd imagine that as you get into the late teens and 20s, that you're gonna you just have fewer options to work with, I'm guessing.
Yeah, so that was something that came up, because at some point I just said, like, forget the random element, I'm just gonna have chat decide. And, you know, half the time that was like one dude that came into stream. It was probably Sir William 90% of the time. So hey man, thanks for choosing.
Yeah, no, I've seen you in here, Sir William. By the way, thank you for the follow. I did miss that.
MVP of my entire life, for outside of stream too. But for real, yeah, I just let chat decide after a certain point, because I was like, there's no point running a random number generator, because if we don't like hit,
you have to get every hour eventually that just say, you know,
yeah, we're just gonna keep re-rolling. That's boring. Unless you guys like RNG Simulator, which if I wanted RNG Simulator, I'd go spend thousands of dollars on Genshin stuff and get banned for gambling.
Hey!
I have not spent a penny on Genshin. I don't like that game. Anyway.
Was there any particular mood you were going for with this one at the 4 p.m.? Because you mentioned specifically, you know, like the Amelia Watson and Mario, but also that you were going for a classroom feel. Was there a feel that you wanted on this one?
For the 422? So I wanted like a reggae kind of stoner feel, and a band I used to really like was Sublime. So I went for Sublime's Badfish is the chord progression. And one thing I learned about composing this album was I really love composing in Mixolydian mode, which is the major scale with a flat 7. I don't know why, that flat 7 hits so good to me, because it's like, so in the, okay, I'm going to be a music theory.
I'm just sort of smiling and nodding when you say Mixolydian and, you know, flat 7th. That I did not actually ever take music theory. I know very, very rudimentary stuff. But as soon as you're talking like more specific keys and chords, you're gonna lose me. But I can appreciate conceptually everything you just said.
I have a better way to explain it that I think everyone can hear. So, you know, in a major scale, you know, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti,
I know what a flat 7th is. I know what it means. There.
Right. So the T has like the T, you know, it wants to resolve up, but instead you make it flat, so it doesn't give it like that pining sound. It sounds more mellow.
Yeah, that it's gonna be do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do.
Yeah, the T, do. Like, I like that better. So I wind up composing a Mixolydian, which is like really good for sea shanties. It's good for fantasy stuff. It's good for like more laid back stuff like reggae. You know, I'm just finding like, wow.
As soon as you said reggae,
awesome.
that's what clicked with me, because you mentioned the sort of stoner feel when we first started listening, and I couldn't actually tell at that point in time if you were joking or not. And now I understand that you were not.
No, I was dead ass.
But what got for me is when you said that, I started hearing the marimba more, and just like that sound is one that I mentally associate a little bit more with reggae, but also the dun dun dun
the
dun,
upbeats.
The hitting the upbeats there also is, I feel, something that's a bit more indicative of that style. So that definitely scans, and with that context, as I keep listening to it, it's like, okay, now I get it. Because even out of context, I was just like, yeah, this sounds like 4 p.m. This is fun. This is Animal Crossing-ish. But I love now with that context that it brings the music to a whole new level, because now I'm recognizing it as something.
That's good. That makes me happy. I want to make like a video about like my thought process through this, because I've never done.
Yeah, I feel like you could do I'd love to see a video of you just going hour by hour on all these.
Oh, that could be fun. The last time I did a video essay was like back when my YouTube wasn't just music. I think it's privated now, but I had like this whole analysis on like, what are the best Yu-Gi-Oh decks to play with this archetype?
We haven't even gotten to Yu-Gi-Oh yet, Ark.
We will get to Yu-Gi-Oh.
Like, just confirming, do you have any plans tonight? Like, is there a time that you need to be done by? I think you said you didn't?
I mean, like 11, like before midnight is probably good.
Okay, that's fine.
I don't work. The only thing I got going on tomorrow morning, other than, you know, checking my email and making sure the company audit's going okay, smile. Yeah, just a little anxious about that. That's very nerve-wracking. I actually did a little bit of work this weekend preparing for it, so hopefully it's okay. But my internet's been actually really shit recently. Like the speeds have been abysmal. So my friend is gonna stop by. He's gonna take a look at it, and then I'll
Literally,
probably
as
get
soon as
Taco
you
Bell and hang out with my parents.
just as you were saying that, you glitched for just a half second. You're good, but that was not
Good.
scripted.
No, that was not scripted. It was really bad Saturday. It was like unbearable on Saturday. It was I was like, oh, pain. Um, yeah. So yeah, we can keep going. We'll get
Yeah.
to everything.
I just started up 8:48 a.m. That this one is
Slash
sort
PM.
of /PM. So does this work for
Yeah.
both sides of
Yes.
the clock?
Yes. So this is the first one we did actually.
All right, because this
This was
one
the first
is, it's sort of smooth jazz club type of music. That you've got that just walking bass, the doom doom doom. You have the
The jazz bass.
saxophone. That this sounds like just a jazz bar.
So I was going for two things with this. Yeah, Jazz Bar was the 8 p.m. The 8 a.m. is an experience I had in grad school, which was in grad school, I would, when I was going to school for my social work degree, there was days where I would get to school like 5 hours before class because there was no later bus. But that worked out for me because what I do is I show up, roll up to 7-Eleven, get myself a coffee and a muffin, and sit for like 3 or 4 of those hours before class just doing my work. And it was rainy most of the time, be like a rainy Friday morning. So it was supposed to be like the sound of, you're up early, like work is just starting, or you're rolling in.
I just realized the other feel that I get from it.
What's that?
Noir cop film. That
Yeah.
the city ain't what it used to be. I'm looking for a dame who's been taken off the streets, and I need to get her back to her family. Just like that sort of. Sorry, not a noir cop, noir PI, noir detective.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my God, you finally put into words. That's what I was going for, but I didn't know how to word it. You just worded it perfectly. Oh my God. I'm so happy. I didn't even know
just,
that was
that sort of scene setting, LA Noir style thing of that he's getting the coffee and donut for either just starting or ending his day, and that it's very easy listening.
That's what I'm going for. I'm glad. This is making me very happy. I feel very validated.
Was there? So I guess I don't need to ask as many questions because I suppose I may have actually just stumbled into this one.
You did. You definitely did.
But you mentioned this was the first piece.
This was the first one we did, yes.
Yeah. So and at that point, this would have been RNG selected. So that you didn't set out to make this the first piece, and the number fell into your lap, and that you then went and made this from there.
Yes, that is correct. This was fully RNG'd from the start.
Very nice. Yeah. Definitely like this one a lot. Let's see. What next? Let's go with... The next two are both early morning. That what we have left is... let's go with 0006. So that is just 12:06 a.m., just after midnight.
Yeah, so this is probably like a lo-fi hip-hop feel right off the bat, probably.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, that's the one. So
with the very, very light xylophone.
Yep. This one is kind of like you're up late studying, or like you can't sleep, but like you're still comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And like I was thinking more like you're up late studying.
This is another one that is scary similar to actual Animal Crossing. It's the instrumentation. Yeah, I think that's what it is, because I loved 848. I think it's a great one. That feels like one that I would get inside at Brewster's. That one doesn't strike me as much as an hour theme. I still love it. I could see it as an hour theme, but in terms of what I've heard in the past, that I would say 1206 is more comparable to existing outdoor arrangements.
Yes. So everything on this album is like my own flair, because I know like some of it is like a little too busy to be
Yeah.
an Animal Crossing, but like this is gonna be people's like they're not gonna be putting this on for a loop for an hour, is my guess. If they do, I'm flattered.
Yeah,
but
even better.
You don't have to. You don't have to. You can do whatever you want. So I don't know. I planned like this. Like I was also going for like a playlist that kind of tells the story of an entire day, in like condensed into probably an hour.
The xylophone makes me think of the twinkling stars outside because this is literally the middle of the night. You get this. I'm assuming that it's a tuba or tuba-esque bass going in the later half of the song, and I don't even know how to describe it, but it just feels Animal Crossing, of having that little extra walking bass line that isn't in the piece to start with, but pops up later.
Yeah, Animal Crossing, especially the older games, had that instrumentation probably because they had limitations on the type of files they could run, so they had to use like a weird bass MIDI. But you can emulate that in FL Studio, like really. In fact, I have the preset I have is called AC Bass, specifically meant for it. And I remember I watched a video on how to recreate it, and it only took me a couple minutes to make. So, and that's pretty much in half the tracks. It's a good one. I'm glad this is making me feel really happy. I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Oh, definitely. Are there any pieces or influences or moods that you were looking for on this particular hour?
Just like the lo-fi beats to study to. That's
just
pretty much it.
Gotcha. And the last one we have is 2:05. So this is again, middle of the night type of stuff. So let's bring that one up.
This one's a favorite of mine. I like the 2, 3, and 4 a.m. are 3 of my favorites. I mean, they're all like my children, so I love them all. But like 2 a.m. is a favorite of mine. In fact, you'll actually, since we listened to 8:40, you'll hear one of those light motifs in the 2 a.m. So this one was later, and you can tell because that light motif is there.
Yeah, and that the hours of 2 through 5 a.m. usually in Animal Crossing are a very particular set of hours that just not the late night, but the early morning hours hit such a different mood because I think for me, as someone who usually is not playing during those hours, that they hit different from me because in those few instances when I would be awake or have cause to pick up the game at that hour, it instantly hits different of, oh, this isn't a theme that I know like the back of my hand, like 4 p.m. or 8 p.m., that this is different, and that it's not that I feel I shouldn't be hearing this, but the fact that I am hearing this tells me that that something is different than usual.
It's like you shouldn't be awake, but if you're here, you might as well get comfortable.
Yeah, I like that phrasing a lot. That you have the light piano, the tambourine, which you make sound sort of like a cricket.
Yep, that's one of my favorite. I learned that from. I picked up that technique from something we'll talk about a little later on this list too.
Well, I think this is actually the last one that you gave me. Let me check.
Oh yeah, I learned it from other BGM compositions. Like I was like,
oh yeah,
ooh, that sounds like a little cricket. I'm gonna do that.
Yeah. Now, if you were awake trying to catch bugs, this would mess with you because there were actual crickets that made those sounds.
Crickets, I don't like seeing them because they jump
not
all over the place,
not in real life. Not in real life. No.
But I like hearing them. Like if you're driving late at night with the windows down, you can hear the crickets. I find that really soothing. That's one of my favorite sounds.
Yep, definitely a love hearing them, hate seeing them.
Yep. Like crickets have a sense of comfort associated with them.
Yeah.
Like the sound of them, at least.
What is your overall interaction or history, I suppose, with Animal Crossing as a franchise? That for me, I have actually played every entry from the GameCube one that did. It was one that I actually got introduced to by a
It's
friend. So I have,
interesting you say that.
yeah.
Animal Crossing I didn't get into until the one on the Switch, and I
So New
wasn't that
Horizons.
interested. So basically, when COVID, yeah, so New Horizons, yes, so very very late. So all my real life friends, when like COVID had just hit, like we're all in quarantine, they all got Animal Crossing. They all came
Yep.
over to my apartment when I still lived with my friends, and all of them are playing Animal Crossing except for me. So I said, well, fine. I don't want to get FOMO. I'm buying it right now.
It
and
just,
so, and then they're all like, "Yeah, he's gonna play with us." And so,
yeah.
like, you have a bunch of dudes and girls in their late 20s just sitting in some guy's bedroom, all playing Animal Crossing. And I picked the Southern Hemisphere because none of them picked Southern Hemisphere.
Ooh, they
I was
must
like, well,
loved you.
oh yeah,
Meant
we
that
had
they can catch all the stuff that they can't.
yep, we caught hammerhead sharks on day one. It was great.
Uh,
Um, but yeah, like that was my experience,
yeah.
and like it kind of like that was like through the dog days, like the March through
Oh
like
yeah, no.
late
Animal
April.
Crossing united the world and was in the right place at the right time. And funny enough, it was delayed. I'm not sure if you know, Animal Crossing was supposed to release in October of 2019. It got
Oh my god,
delayed.
I didn't know
It
it was
got
that bad.
it it got delayed
Oh my
by
god,
about 5 months.
with
And
less content.
it was just, it came out at the right time because goodness knows it is
Oh my
something
god.
that I and many other people used to socialize and to have a sense of, obviously it's different from being in the same room, but it created a sense of togetherness and community, and just it provided the needed substitute for physical interaction at that time, and especially like you said, through those dog days of those first couple of months when everything was just very new, very different. That, you know, at least for me, I adapted pretty quickly, and I think part of that is simply because I've lived on my own for, at that point, 5 years already. So I was fine being alone, and the bigger piece for me was the nuisance of, dang, I can't go to conventions or I can't go to Friday Night Magic right now, and that's frustrating.
True.
But it didn't impact my day to day much more than the fact that, oh, I'm working from home now as opposed to going into the office. But it, at the same time, it, even for me at that point, was still just so different. And I, for those first couple months, I reconnected with friends I hadn't talked to in 2, 3 years because I would see them posting on Facebook or something about the Animal Crossing, be like, "Hey, want to come to my island? Hey, want to hang out?" That I made a point to reach out to as many folks as I can, visit islands, and that was my primary social tool from March through July, August 2020.
That sounds about right. Yeah, and I got closer to current close friends and made some close ones we have today because of it. So
Mhm.
yeah, my and I didn't really get into the music until like I started like listening back to the other playlists
Yeah,
on other people's recommendations, and I
I
like
will
those.
agree with the general sentiment that while New Horizons introduced a lot of quality of life updates and that the island customization was revolutionary for the game, that there's a lot of pieces that earlier installments I think did better.
Yeah,
And
I think
I
that's
think
the
for the
general
music,
consensus.
that's one of them. And
Yeah,
that's okay. But I'm unsurprised to hear that you going back to previous soundtracks may have hit a bit harder than New Horizons.
they did. Like I like the goofy and like funness of like the GameCube ones, and some of the New Horizons ones hit like the emotions a bit harder and better. I mean,
Mm,
New Leaf, excuse me.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think. So just like that exposure to soundtracks from games that I didn't really play was played a big part in it. Animal Crossing achieves like this perfect balance of like good music without like being too overbearing. And I find like that's where I differ from a lot of composers in the online space, and something I have to remember to avoid imposter syndrome is just like you know like realizing that my style has comes from a
Mm,
completely different place.
yeah.
That's what we get from that.
Absolutely. And it's just a. I tell this story every so often. It's one that I don't know if I've told recently. Animal Crossing indirectly is responsible for VTuber Talk.
Is it?
In those dog days of 2020, a guy by the name of Gary Whitta, who is the screenwriter for Hollywood films such as Star Wars Rogue One, Book of Eli, and several others, like many folks in Hollywood and many folks around the world, wasn't going to work because filming wasn't happening.
Oh.
He decided to start he like many people got into Animal Crossing, and he loved late night talk shows, and so he created a late night talk show set in the basement of his Animal Crossing house. And he decided to invite a friend over to do a show, and he streamed it out, and he called it Animal Talking. And it hit because at this time, most of the real late night talk shows were still scrambling to get their remote setups propped up.
Oh, that's right.
Animal Talking ran for about 7 months. That the last show they had was the Halloween special in 2020. But before the end of it, he had Josh Gad, he had Brie Larson, he had Phil Spencer,
Holy
he
shit.
had Cole Sprouse, he had folks
Oh my god.
he had folks from Hollywood, the gaming industry. He had Selena Gomez debut a song on his show in Animal Crossing.
That's awesome.
And
that's sick.
I discovered it about 2-3 months after it started, but then started to watch his shows religiously because one, he was a very good host. His guests were awesome. I was in Animal Crossing. It was just so fun. And like I said, the last show that they had was in Halloween 2020. He did a Fall Guys show called Talk Guys. And it was the same concept, and he ran that for about 2 months, and then was able to start getting some work that he did remotely. So, that all eventually fizzled. He still streams every now and again, and has actually been working on some cool stuff. But the TLDR there is that ended in November, effectively. I had fallen into VTuber, the rabbit hole, in late September. And it was in January of 21, like, I think it was like New Year's Day or the 2nd of 21, that I sort of had the epiphany of, I don't want to be a VTuber. I don't think I'd be able to do normal content creation. And through brainstorming, something just animal talking popped in my head, and it was like, I could do a talk show. I'm sure there's other talk shows. Like I knew intuitively that I wasn't going to be the first. I figured that, okay, VTubing's been a thing for more than a minute. I can't have been the only person to think of this, but at the very least, I'm sure there's not too many. And that was
not the way you run it at all. I'd say,
and that's the thing, that I modeled it after that. That I've always said I try to be more like Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert than 60 Minutes. And I noticed that I quickly discovered other interview ones, and I felt most tended a bit more towards the 60-minute style. Nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I enjoy my style, and that's how indirectly Animal Crossing is responsible for VTuber Talk.
That's amazing how Animal Crossing somehow finds its way into everyone in our lives a little bit. It's just that powerful of a franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Just like most Nintendo franchises.
Yep.
Love to see it.
Yeah. So I'm going to shift us back over to the other one. And obviously, if you folks want to... Whoops. Yep, there we go. Yeah, if you folks want to hear more of those pieces, keep an eye out. Be sure to follow Ark on social media here on Twitch and on Twitter. That there's going to be more updates. And you said that the album release is actually impending at this point.
I just gotta mix master stuff. I gotta I still have to write the main theme. and then that'll be the base album. I'll probably have quote-unquote free DLC, which will be like rainy or snow remixes, or like maybe a couple other.
Give me those snowy
themes.
remixes in December.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Outside of Animal Crossing, you do obviously a good number of commissions for other folks that you've done actually a bit of work with 7M. You have open commissions. You have a SoundCloud where folks can listen to all your past ones. You mentioned that you've recently done a piece for Remy from Phase Connect. And
yes, so the reason
that there
I
was a
brought that
story
up,
about it that you apparently didn't expect her to like something and that she really enjoyed. So I'm curious, what is it that Remy enjoyed that you weren't expecting?
So first of all, I wasn't expecting an email from Face Connect at all, since the piece is out. So is my mono frozen?
Nope, you're good.
Okay.
You just moved around
Maybe
a fair bit.
I was probably leaning back in my chair. Okay. So I could probably talk about this now because they commissioned me back in like April. So basically, management reached out to me and says, Remy would like to commission you. This was before like anyone knew Gen 2 was coming, so I had to keep my mouth shut, obviously.
NDAs are fun.
Yeah, their NDA was really short though, so that was nice. So obviously I'm gonna keep my mouth shut. If you hand me an NDA, I'm gonna shut the fuck up.
Mhm.
Because like that kind of ruins it for everybody. Ruins the fun, ruins the surprise. But anyway.
Yeah.
There, she says, well, I want you to do a piece for me like you did that fan piece for Heiko's Bales. And I was like, excuse me? No, that piece flopped on its fucking ass. And she was like,
Okay,
yeah, well, I really like it.
Hold on, before you continue. By what metric did it flop? What made you think it was a flop?
Nobody saw it. Its numbers were ass. So, like, the fact that she chose that piece out of, like, everything I've done that, like, had more visibility. Like, the fact that she even saw it.
It means she went through your discography. That means that she actually went through and listened to everything you've done.
Which is weird, but flattering. It's just that's a W I didn't expect. And so that taught me a very valuable lesson, which was, even if you think it sucks, even if you put it out and it flops, keep it out because you don't know who is going to see it.
Mm-hmm.
If you post that art, post that work, finish that music, it doesn't have to be perfect. I spent a whole week working on that fan piece for Bales, for Bay, whatever. Saying Bales feels weird. It was just called
It
Bay.
does, yeah.
I Bales sounds so fucking weird. She's just Bay, okay?
Yeah.
For Bay. And like I wasn't like expecting her to see it, obviously, because like 9 times out of 10 that like that's
yeah,
just
they
not
get
how it
tagged in a
works.
lot of stuff, and they have
Right.
very active art tags. They're not going to see everything.
Which is why if they ever do, I'll be extremely flattered and very gracious because they don't have to look at it. They don't have to like it or retweet it. It's just very, very nice. It's like every artist feels the same way. But anyway, the point is, Remy saw it. I got to make a piece, and I was like, hey, yo, this piece is fun as hell. This piece is really fun to make. She sent me her voice samples. I spliced them up. I phased out the white noise, put it, and now she uses it as her intro for all of her streams, and the piece is on her channel as per what Face Connect asked. And I was like, that's crazy.
That's so cool.
It's super cool. I'm very grateful to Remy. Remy was very, very sweet. Very, very nice to work with. So very happy about that opportunity.
That's awesome. I'll admit, I'm not as familiar with a lot of the Face Connect talents, and I think that's largely a function of me and my viewing being primarily on Twitch. That, outside of Hololive, which, I do not watch as much Hololive as I used to, and mostly that's because I'm watching either my past guests or looking around for new ones, which takes up a lot of my viewing time for the time that I allocate to VTuber content. So it means that I'm not seeing their stuff as much, but I'm very much aware of Face Connect. That I follow Sheena and a couple others. But yeah, Face Connect does a lot of really cool stuff. Their talents are just, very talented, and I'm super happy that you were able to have that experience. And I suppose it is sort of funny that it was a piece from Bay, because while maybe that one didn't do as well, obviously, it did well for you in one way or another. But you have done a piece for another member of Hololive English
True.
Council.
That is true. Again, I can only say so much because of NDAs and stuff. That's another opportunity I'm very gracious for. And obviously, Fauna was great to work with. I sent her that piece. I worked really hard on because I was like, I need this to be mixed mastered perfect.
Yeah, because at that point, all right, this is the big leagues. Perfect. This is Hololive. This is going to be heard by a lot of people. I have to imagine there was a different level of pressure for that one.
It's weird because I didn't really feel that pressured because I don't know. I kind of sat down. I kind of got into workflow mode, and it was like, oh, I'm cooking in the lab for this one. Just kind of went I know what I'm good at. I know what I'm comfortable. I think I can meet exactly what she's looking for. Looks like I did. So, yeah. Again, very grateful for that opportunity.
Yeah.
Staff was great to work with.
You said that when Remy approached you, her initial instructions, for lack of a better term, were, I want something in the style of what you did for Bae.
She asked specifically for Kawaii Future Bass.
Kawaii Future Bass. Okay. Wow, what a set of terms that I've never heard them put together before, but I know exactly what that means.
Yup, I'm sure most people do.
That's such a good use of terms. Holy cow!
that is such a VTuber genre of music.
That is. Oh my. So, but I am curious. So, what were the phrases that Fauna used?
Take a wild guess.
I'm guessing just fluffy nature.
No. It was Animal Crossing.
Oh, dang it!
That's why I was like, oh, I got this. I got this.
Oh my gosh. Love it.
No
Love
problem,
it.
bro. Easy.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Okay, well, not easy, but because I was like, let me make it seem like you're in a nice, comfy forest. Yeah, I got some nice beats, based on things they said like that, and yeah, I don't know. I'm just smiling just thinking about it.
Yeah, it is a very, very fun piece.
Happy.
That if for some reason any of you in chat are watching on YouTube, hi YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. If you haven't heard it, I'm gonna be sure to include your SoundCloud and everything.
You should probably don't bother with SoundCloud. I would put just YouTube. SoundCloud.
Just YouTube. Okay.
SoundCloud is a weird website. I know it's supposed to be my portfolio, but SoundCloud, I don't know, something about SoundCloud is very off to me.
That's fair. So I will include the YouTube link in that case, so be sure to check it out on his YouTube. And I think that, I forget if that's the one you have currently pinned on your Twitter, but I know that one could change, so.
Everything is in my link tree, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything should
funny
be in
enough,
the link tree,
so I moved back to the playlist that I had going earlier, and we now have the Animal Crossing New Horizons Island theme playing.
Hey,
it all comes together.
We are energetically aligned.
What do you think? What is the most challenging direction you've ever been given? Is there ever a set of terms that you've been presented with that you just sort of had to sit down for a while and be like, okay, I'm not even saying what was the most difficult piece technically, but mentally to find the mood. What is either the most difficult, or what is just, one that sticks out in your memory of this was a particularly unusual ask, and maybe it was unusual but not difficult?
I want to shout out, this is I'll say one that clicked with me perfectly, and then I'll say one that was the opposite of that. So I think the piece, and this kind of goes in line with what I did for Fauna, but when Pearl Otter approached me for her BGM, she was like, I want Animal Crossing ocean music, and I was like, yes, I want that. I want that. Yes, I got you, homegirl.
We love Pearl on this channel.
How can you not? She's great.
Pearl holds the record for the longest episode of VTuber Talk ever.
She's so good at talking. I can
She
understand
is.
why. But yeah, like Pearl is like easily like top 3. Like she requested something, and I was like, let's fucking go. I can do this. And that one was fun. So the opposite, there's a couple of them. Some of them aren't even released yet. I've been asked to do jazz. I've been asked to do trance. I know. I think Sylvie asked me to make a future funk remix of her song, her original song, with very, very beautiful, very somber song in 3/4. So putting 3/4 into funk was like, I'm gonna have to do some mental gymnastics.
Yeah,
for this
you
one.
know that this is one
that
of
was
those,
very
you know,
challenging.
in a traditional music sense, at least, that's trying to get a square peg into a round hole.
Yeah,
And
that was hard.
They are not.
Yeah.
Obviously, anything can be done with music, but that is definitely two things that, in terms of general mechanics, are not going to be the easiest to put together.
Yeah, that was a huge challenge for sure. I'm trying to think of another one that was, because that was a remix, so I don't really think that counts as like an original composition. Now the jazz one, that's not out yet. There's no NDA behind that, so I can talk about that one. It's almost done, but that was just like, hey, write some Persona-esque music, and I was like, oh shit, I have to like
Persona-esque.
Well, it was funny because I showed it to a mutual friend who's really into Persona, and he was like, "Yo, this rules," and I was like, "Okay,
Cool.
if he thinks so."
All right. Yeah, if
I did
you've
something
got
right.
the content matter expert on it saying yes, it works and it hits the ask. That's always nice having someone nearby that you can use as that litmus test.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But I mean, that one was fun. I did part of that on stream, and I was like writing all like the jazz solos, and like all the chat was like, "You're getting so into this." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I got the flow going. We got the jazz solos going." Writing solos is really fun because it feels like you're like writing a jam session, and that's just a fun thing to do.
Yeah. So I do want to hop over, but I'm going to get us into a segue here.
Sure.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Music has no right to hit as hard as it does in the video games.
Have you heard Master Duel's soundtrack?
Just it's that picture that you get. It's the classic music meme of, here's this thing that we're asking you to do. You don't need to go that hard, and then it's the picture of the person playing a piano on a beach and the piano's on fire.
That's exactly how they describe Master Duel's soundtrack.
Yeah, the thing is, that's been Yu-Gi-Oh! Music in the games since day one. I played Dark Duel Stories on the Game Boy Color. I played False-Bound Kingdom on the GameCube.
Dark Duel Stories. I had that too.
But just for me, the ultimate is False-Bound Kingdom, both for gameplay and for music. But that they actually had a lot of themes that a lot of the compositions in Dark Duel Stories then got adapted and used again in False-Bound Kingdom, or in like Duelist of the Roses and all these other ones that for a while in Gen 1, of Yu-Gi-Oh, that they, in the video games, not in the anime series, actually had consistent like motifs for different characters.
Oh, should play Sacred Cards again.
Yeah, Sacred Cards. Ooh, classic. And so, let's go to the beginning. What is your history with Yu-Gi-Oh?
I got into Yu-Gi-Oh when it first came to the States because of that VHS tape with like Duel Kingdom, watch Yu-Gi-Oh, play the card game, and I was like, wow, this looks great. So of course my first product ever was the OG starter deck Yu-Gi.
Yeah, yep. I
Of
just
course.
started Tech Yu-Gi and Kaiba, and we all look back and say, gosh, wish we'd bought one extra of those and just not opened them.
Yeah, I wish I had bought 3 starter deck Kaibas and I could have played La Jin, the Mystical Genie of the Lamb Beatdown in 2002.
Yep, back in the day when 1800 attack on a normal monster level 4 was a big deal.
Yup, and now normal summon Alistair.
I don't know what that is, but I'm just gonna sort of
Oh,
assume because
honey.
I remember when Gemini Elf came out in 1900, Attack on a Level 4 was a secret rare with
I
no
pulled her.
abilities. It
I
was a
pulled her at that time.
big deal.
I screamed. I screamed. I opened that pack. I pulled Gemini Elf. I screamed. And like all my friends were there. They're like, yo!
Because before that, the big deal was Mechanical Chaser, which you could only get in the tournament pack, so they were even
That card
rarer.
was like $400.
It was damn near
Oh
impossible
my
to get
God.
1850. But then they later had, I forget what it was, but there was one that eventually hit like 2000 and 2100 at level 4. Um, uh, Goblin Attack Force, which had 2300, but after it attacked, it got put into defense mode and had no defense. And I remember Gen 1, and I played through most of Gen 2, so GX. I stopped right when synchros were becoming a thing, and that was I fell out of it for a number of reasons. It wasn't like I'm too old, I'm too cool for Yu-Gi-Oh. It was just circumstantial falling out. But have you been into Yu-Gi-Oh consistently since day one, or did you have a
Not
lapse and then a relapse?
There was multiple relapses. So I played and like followed the card game pretty on and like pretty religiously up until like the beginning of the GX era. So like start to finish, I was into Yu-Gi-Oh. GX era came out, stopped for a bit, got back into it because I saw like Egyptian God cards 2, or like the Sacred
the
Beast.
Sacred Beasts.
Yeah, so that got me back in, and then I went to a tournament, and this was right before. And most of you guys aren't going to know this, but there's this format called Dark Armed Dragon format, and I went to a tournament like.
Now, I remember Dark Armed Dragon. I didn't know there was a format named after it.
Dark Armed Dragon was so strong it warped the game around it at the time.
Okay, so is this a colloquial term of Dark Armed Dragon format?
Yep, because it was called Teledad for emergency teleport. Dad, Dark Armed Dragon, Teledad format, the most expensive format in the history of the game. And I was like 14, and I had like stuff to do with school, and I was playing World of Warcraft, so I was like, I'll pass on the Yu-Gi-Oh. So I didn't really follow it. I got back into it again my sophomore year of college, and that was partially because sophomore year of college was a really rough start. That was my first breakup, and I had a broken foot, so I couldn't march in marching band.
Oh no!
Yeah, I was very salty.
Actual tragedy right there.
For real. I mean, honestly, I didn't really. They still let me play and stuff from the sidelines on my little chair
That's
thing.
nice.
But
Not the same.
yeah, I don't mind the marching. I like playing, to be honest. But anyway, like what I did in that time was like when I wanted to get away from everything, I would watch people do pack openings and live vicariously through them.
Yeah,
because
this would have been early days of pack openings at this point because
it's like 2012.
This would have been really early day of pack openings.
Yeah, so I remember Simply Unlucky is who I watched, and he's like this very handsome dude from California, and he used to just like open packs with his hands. And there's one where he's opening a pack of Photon Shockwave with Xyz monsters, the black cards, which I didn't know that much about. And he's going through them, and he's like, haha, I got this card, I got this card. And then he just goes, oh, baby! And starts like screaming at the top of his lungs. He pulls like the $100 rescue rat. And I remember like that video was my comfort video because I thought his screaming was so funny. Because it's like, it was very wholesome. It was very like, like you could tell. Like,
it's just a positive energy and just, like pure elation in a video.
Yes.
And then, sometimes you find that it's like, yes, I need a little bit of secondhand serotonin here. And that was that for you.
He was the first guy I sampled when I figured out how to sample in music making. It was because it was like the oh baby before the beat dropped. It was great.
Oh, I see. Got it.
Right. So I was there and I played up until another very expensive, very meta-defining format, which was called Dragon Ruler Spellbook format. Which the only two decks that were competitive were Dragon Rulers and Spellbooks, and they're both stupid expensive. And I was like, I really wanted to play Spellbooks, but they're just so expensive because obviously I like the wizard stuff. So I quit Yu-Gi-Oh again. And then summer of 2016 hits, and my friend goes, hey, so remember Yu-Gi-Oh? And I was like, oh, of course. And he goes, Dark Magician just got some good support, and I was like, shit, man, I'm back in the game, and I've been back in the game since 2016.
Hey, man! Quick Yu-Gi-Oh! In and out, 20 minutes. Dark Magician, you son of a bitch, I'm in.
Basically, but I never left.
Yeah, that for me, for all of the Duel Monsters era, I did not do a damn thing competitively. I remember that I went to a single tournament. So Yu-Gi-Oh! Came out when I was in 4th grade. That was when the starter decks came out. Got in really quickly, was buying packs, played a ton with kids in the neighborhood. That there was a really big Yu-Gi-Oh! Scene in my neighborhood, and that it was very easy to find folks to play with, and none of us were anywhere near competitive. And I decided to one day try going to a tournament. I got my ass beat. Yep. Round 1, and it wasn't a Swiss tournament, so I went home after round 1, and I was just never went to another competitive tournament for 5-6 years until near the end of my time playing Yu-Gi-Oh! This was in the late GX era. What I did throughout the GX era, I went to pre-releases with friends all the time. That was something we super looked forward to every couple of months, because that was sealed, and that was just super casual, and nothing was at stake. You'd play 5 mini games and then get a couple of extra packs, and that was it. I went to a couple of tournaments, and at that point it was Swiss games, so I was like, even if I lose, whatever, I get to play a couple of rounds. And I would usually go like 2-2 or 2-3, 3-2. Never did super well. But it was, I was older at that point, and even if I wasn't playing a meta deck, that I was able to play at this local shop, the scene was not so sweaty that I was able to play a non-meta deck, a very non-meta deck, and just have a good time. And even in the ones that I lost, that it wouldn't be awful. And then I just sort of fell out of it circumstantially near the end of the GX era. And part of that was because I moved, and then when I moved from Maryland to Texas, that one thing I'm also pretty open about is that I currently live in Texas, and that doesn't tell you much because Texas is freaking huge.
True.
That in my area there was just not much of a Yu-Gi-Oh! Scene, but a friend got me into Magic because Magic has draft.
Yup. The pack for that.
Well, here's the thing. So it's similar to Sealed, but that there is strategy involved with the picking the actual act of drafting. It means that there is no meta-defining deck, and even if there is a best deck in a format, it's gone in 3 months because it's just for each given booster pack. That everything is going to be a lot more skill-based. There's variation, and my MO just became, all right, I draft, and then I sell the rares back to the shop and take my winnings to fund the next draft. So I'm actually, as a player, I don't have a collection. I've played Magic since 2014 now. I have a small set of cards that I have kept, and that's really it. And the rest is just, I draft and then I sell them back, and it's made it so it's been a relatively self-sustaining hobby. And if I lose a bit of money here and there, it's the cost of a movie ticket or less for more hours of entertainment than a movie.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good way to look at it.
And that's how I enjoy Magic. I know a lot of folks who do competitive or get into Commander. I don't do any of that.
Commander is the only format I'd be interested in.
Yeah, the Commander is definitely the most popular, and it's the most free. Sorry, not free in terms of cost, but there's the most freedom in the format.
Yeah, that's what I like about it. You can be really creative. Like, it's all, it's very personalized. Like, I want to pick this commander. And I usually pick commanders because, like, this one looks cool. Yeah. This one's an angel that got corrupted by Cthulhu. That's fucking badass. I'm gonna pick that
I know
one.
exactly who you're talking about.
Or is that Brazilla or something?
Yep.
Yeah, that's one of my 2 commander decks, yep.
Nice. When you played, in the GX era, you weren't in the GX era because you came back with Exceeds, which was 5Ds, so you didn't actually play in the GX era in that case.
I did play a little bit in the GX era, so I played all of DM, I played little on and off GX, I skipped 5Ds, that's Synchro era.
Yes, got it.
I came back for part of Zexal, I left, and I came back halfway through Arc 5, which is the Pendulum era, and I've been back ever since. So I've lived through Pendulums, I've lived through all of Links, and I've lived through everything that came after Link's,
Mm-hmm.
which has been interesting.
What are some of your favorite decks? Any era?
Okay, so any era. So, I really like Jinzo. Jinzo is one of my favorite OG cards. Ridiculously powerful. Just any like Jinzo deck.
So for those
So
who aren't familiar, Jinzo is a Pokemon that harkens
A
all the way back.
You can call him a Pokemon.
Did I say Pokemon? Did I say Pokemon?
Yeah.
I meant
I
Yu-Gi-Oh.
thought- It's okay. It's okay. I thought it was
It
funny.
harkens all the way back to the early days of Yu-Gi-Oh. And Jinzo is a monster that says, while it is on the field, trap cards can't be used.
Yep. That's my guy right there. Well, actually, here's a fun thing about Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that recently, they're allowing official tournament stores to do what they call Time Wizard events. And what a Time Wizard event is that you pick an era or you pick a ban list, and you can only use cards from that ban list. So the most popular is called GOAT, which has two meanings: one, greatest of all time, or scapegoat format. So most people are familiar with that because that's 2004.
Yeah, that's early days.
Yeah, people love GOAT format because the most powerful monster is Blackluster Soldier, Envoy at the beginning. Jinzo's still really popular.
Well, most powerful would have been Chaos Emperor Dragon Envoy at the end, but that was banned.
That is banned in GOAT format, correct. That is banned in GOAT format. So, GOAT, I don't know, I think GOAT's overrated personally, but I tried it once, and I, like, played one extra card, and the guy was like, oh, you overextended, that's why you lost. Because I'm like, because I said an extra trap? Is that what GOAT is? And GOAT is so sacky, because all their decks are almost exactly the same. So it's whoever gets luckier. So I think GOAT is overrated. I think it's a great starting place for people who like remember old school Yu-Gi-Oh! They want to play it. GOAT is wonderful. I think it's really good for that reason. I can tell you like some of my favorite cards or strategies, and I can explain them.
Okay, yeah.
So I mentioned normal summon Alistair. So Alistair is from the invoked archetype, and it's very straightforward. Alistair is a spellcaster. You summon him, he adds his fusion spell from your deck to your hand. You can use that fusion spell using monsters in either player's graveyard if you're summoning a monster with Alistair. Is the best way to describe
And
it.
is Alistair a material for a lot of different things, I guess?
You need him for everything in his archetype. So anything that has invoked blank
Gotcha.
is his type.
Okay.
So I've been on a lot of people like make fun of invoked players because it's a pretty simple deck to play. I like it because it's so splashable. If your deck doesn't need a normal summon, you can just put Alistair in it. You can put those invoked cards. It's not that big of a commitment, and then you have a really good normal summon engine that can make a monster that can help protect your plays after that a little bit more. So it's really simple. It's really easy. It's been pretty safe and friendly to play since he came out in 2017, and I've been on the deck since 2018. Right now, the power we just had a massive power creep, so he's kind of power crept out of the game for the first time in like 4 years, but 4 or 5 years. But that's probably
Yu-Gi-Oh just
deck.
did a new ban list, and that's one of the big differences between Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon. Sorry, damn, not Yu-Gi-Oh and Magic, and Yu-Gi-Oh and Magic.
Pokemon 2.
Yeah,
Pokemon set rotation like Magic.
Yeah, so you're obviously familiar with it. That Pokemon and Magic have what is called set rotation and a small ban list. So the way it works is when a new set comes out in Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh, that they are going to be in the standard format, the primary format, usually for 1 to 2 years, depending on when in the rotation happens. And then every so often they will say, all right, these 4 are no longer in, and that there's a these 4 are in, and then you have 5, 6, 7, 8, and then when there would be a 9th, the oldest 4 go out, and then it's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 again, and that's how Magic works. I'm not sure about Pokemon.
Pokemon's similar. Pokemon's pretty similar.
That way they're able to reset things, and it keeps the sets contained relatively, and the power level overall lower. There can be some power creep over time, undoubtedly, that, if you get 8 very powerful sets, that Magic has gotten more powerful in the past several years, no doubt. but it's able to be more contained because you have this rotation. And there are bans that happen in Magic, but in Magic, there was a time in the past couple years where there was like 10 to 15 cards banned in Standard, and that was like cataclysmic. Players were scared. They were like, holy cow, this is unfathomable. 15 cards in a format being banned. Yu-Gi-Oh! Doesn't have rotations. Yu-Gi-Oh! Has ban lists that, by and large, most sets within an era of Yu-Gi-Oh! Are going to be legal. And obviously, Arkhand, do correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, but if memory serves, that it is most things of any given era, but then there's going to be this massive ban list. We're talking there's going to be probably 30 to 50 cards that are outright cannot use them, they are banned. 30 to 50 cards you can only have one of. 20 to 30 you can only have two of.
So it's interesting you say that. So right now, the last ban list was, a lot of players are not happy with it, and because I think it only addressed half of the game's problem. So they banned 5 cards. All 5 bans are good. Those are cards that have been degenerate in the game for a while. They did not ban a certain field spell that says whoever controls more monsters cannot activate any monster effect or attack at all.
Holy cow.
If you play that card and your deck doesn't have an out, you lose because they are going to just stall until you deck out.
You can't win. Yeah. So
So
I say this as someone
so
who hasn't
toxic.
followed it at all. My assumption is that decks that play this probably don't play monsters.
No, they don't. In fact, they usually play burn spells or deck out cards.
Now, so I will say, when I got to more competitive, quote unquote competitive stuff, that when I went to tournaments, and one of my favorite archetypes to play when I really actually got into archetypes, because in original Duel Monsters there were not archetypes. It was just beatdown. It was just, there's raw power, and if you can find a bit of synergy for a strategy, cool.
Yep.
Archetypes became a thing in GX, where it is, you have
Heroes.
cards with similar, heroes. You have cards that have similar names that are written to go together and only work together. And that's called, in game design, that's called parasitic mechanics, where things only work together. And Yu-Gi-Oh! Has found its bread and butter in parasitic mechanics. And obviously, parasitic makes it sound bad. And if you were trying to design a game that doesn't have a lot of parasitic mechanics, a few parasitic mechanics can cause a problem. If you design your game around parasitic mechanics, you have Yu-Gi-Oh! And it can work. And that's fine. It's a design choice. But a lot of what Yu-Gi-Oh! Runs on nowadays, for the most part, is, like you said, that the term in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is archetypes, where you have these sets of 20 to 30 cards that all work very cohesively together in a certain strategy, and that over time you mentioned there being support for Dark Magician. That's when, however many years after the fact, they might go back to this archetype and add anywhere from a handful to a whole bunch of new cards with this archetype name in mind to work with the previous ones in it. But that's how Yu-Gi-Oh! Largely works. The archetype that I enjoyed a lot was Volcanic.
Oh!
Because Volcanic doesn't rely on necessarily the biggest, baddest things. That it has this primary card, which is the Blaze Accelerator, which lets you then discard low-power pyro monsters to destroy things, but then the way that it synergizes is these monsters usually are going to have effects that when they're discarded, they do things. But meanwhile, there's other ones that have burn effects. So there's Volcanic Slicer. It's an 1800 attack that once per turn you can have it inflict 500, but it can't attack. I built a Volcanic deck, and this was back in the day when Gravity Bind was still legal. So I would basically do a setup with that in like level limit area B and just try and burn out the opponent and make it so, all right, I'm going to make it so hopefully you can't attack my clearly weaker monsters. I still played monsters and whatnot in that, but I guess, where do you think that falls in terms of like, toxic and unfun? Because part of my deck there was kind of, I want the opponent to just not get to do their thing.
Volcanics is a control deck, so a lot of people, control I think is pretty balanced because you have to resource manage well.
Mhm.
And it's really funny you mentioned Volcanic because I just linked you a Twitter account from a man named Pained96 who
I'm not
uses
going to open that yet because my computer's a potato and it'll cause the
Okay.
stream to lag. If I do it, I'll look at it after the show.
But I'll tell you guys now, there's a guy on Twitter and YouTube called Pain96. His profile picture is always Squidward in his superhero volcano outfit.
Krakatoa!
That's him. That was a good impression. That's him. And then every day he says, he's, as of today, he is on day 1,310 of waiting for good pyro or volcanic support.
Oh, the poor guy.
We haven't had volcanic support since 2016.
So that was when I... No,
Blaze Accelerator Reload.
Yeah, that would have been it.
The trap card. That was actually decent. There is a format in Time Wizard you can play Volcanic called Edison, which is 2010 Yu-Gi-Oh! Volcanic is a viable strategy then.
Yeah, but that was one of the ones I enjoyed. Six Samurai was cool.
That used to be a game-breaking one, but I wasn't around for it.
Yeah, but in its heyday, it was very powerful, and that was the only time I ever... It wasn't even like net deck, but that I sort of played to the meta, that I lost to a couple of Six Samurai decks, and was like, that actually just seems like a fun archetype to play, because that is a I play the game archetype. That you're playing monsters, and that they synergize well together, and they protect each other, and they had good support, but it wasn't... Part of why I don't like playing constructed formats in Yu-Gi-Oh! Nowadays and in Magic, and this is a criticism of both games in constructed. There's a lot of strategies that rely on not letting the opponent play the game at all, or just do so many things that invalidate and say, okay, you made this thing, it's gone, and that's why I like draft as a gameplay style, because you can't do that in draft. And if you enjoy those types of grindy, I'm gonna do this cool strategy that doesn't let you get to do your thing. And to be fair, like I said, that was half of how I play Volcanics. I'm not gonna yuck someone else's yum. If that's your jam, go for it. And obviously, there's a lot of people that enjoy it. That's how a lot of formats go. That's just not how I realized I didn't enjoy that style of play, which is why I floated away from constructed. Which
Yu-Gi-Oh! Is moving in a direction where constructed in the current format does not look very promising in the next few months. So
yeah, but that's the other thing of Yu-Gi-Oh! That it is designed nowadays, and has been designed, honestly, for now, I'd say well over 80% of its lifetime to be... like I said, you don't have rotating formats. It is rotating ban lists, and you just understand, all right, there's going to be a whole bunch of things that change, and things change rapidly and drastically, or they don't change enough sometimes.
Which was this case. We were so close to a good format, but they kept Mystic Mine in and didn't touch the best deck that much.
Oops.
Well, because they're waiting to sell a set coming out in November that breaks them in half. Like you add it to that deck and it's just absurdly powerful.
Oh, so the stronger about to get stronger.
Yes.
Uh-oh.
Yep, and they already saw what it did in Japan. It had 70% representation in top cut of every tournament. Yeah, not good.
I didn't realize that Japan was still ahead of North America in Yu-Gi-Oh! I thought they had
between 4 and 6 months ahead. Yes.
Wow, I thought they'd unified. That actually shocks me.
It's funny you say that because everyone wants that, but it just
because Magic's been unified always. And part of this is a symptom of it started in the U.S. and then went to Japan later. But Magic always releases all of their sets globally. That even though it's not like America is ahead of Japan. That everything is released in every language simultaneously. One, for competitive purposes, like how do they do their World Championships?
Custom ban list.
And I guess it just means that whatever's the most recent set in Japan doesn't get used.
Yep. If there's any TCG exclusives or American exclusives, that's banned. If there's any Japan exclusives, that's banned, and they have like a ban list specifically for
that makes
worlds.
it. Yeah, I suppose now that you say it, because the whole thing of, like I just said, they don't have formats, they have ban lists, so makes sense. And well, I guess yeah, that's the solution. Weird, but there you are.
Yeah, I just realized like this may like turn a lot of people off to like modern Yu-Gi-Oh, Yu-Gi-Oh is very unforgiving to get into. I will say that, but I'd say give Master Duel a try. It's free. They give you a
It's
bunch
been
of...
so cool to see Yu-Gi-Oh's resurgence in the VTuber scene. That
Mhm.
Master Duel changed it. That there was a handful of folks that I saw streaming Duel Links, not a ton, but when Master Duel came out, it was very rapid, and I wasn't sure if it was going to be sustained. I figured it was going to be all right. It's the flavor of the week. It's the quote unquote streaming meta, and I wasn't sure how many folks would actually fall into that rabbit hole properly. And it's been a good number. That there's a lot of folks that past guests that now do a good amount of Yu-Gi-Oh content, or folks that I've just watched and seen their content shift towards that, and that's super cool. That I'm always happy when folks discover or rediscover a game that they love, even if it's not one that I'm super into. And the only thing that makes me sad is Magic had their cyberpunk anime set this year, and nobody in the VTuber community picked it up. If there was ever a time... Sorry?
It was like the Hatsune Miku set or something.
Well, it wasn't... They had a collaboration with Hatsune Miku that there was like a single that they did in collaboration with her to promote the set, yes. There were no Hatsune Miku cards or anything, but it was a cyberpunk Japanese flavored set. And obviously the VTuber community has its roots in Japanese culture. There's a lot of weebs about, myself included. And I was like, if there's ever a time that the VTuber community is going to get into Magic, it's going to be the cyberpunk Japanese set. And it just didn't take with the community.
The VTuber community, and I could spend a whole other stream on this, but maybe it's because I'm a little far removed from the indie VTuber culture in particular, but there's a bit of an enigma with that where, it makes me think that VTubers aren't in tune with anime and stuff as much as you'd think that they are.
Some are, some aren't. That I found it definitely is going to be, you get a lot of folks who are either, super into anime or just not into anime at all. There aren't as many who watch one or two shows a season. That it's usually you are or you aren't. And, that's fine. That's how folks are. But I guess I'm also just surprised that at large for how many folks are into Yu-Gi-Oh! That there aren't really any into Magic. That there's a small handful that play Magic that I know Gamer Goblin Gary's gotten into some, and there's a couple other past guests that are into it, but it's not the same number really as it is for Yu-Gi-Oh! And
conversely, I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Also has its roots in anime, and so you could say the opposite of what I just said is true.
Actually, now that you mention it, maybe it's because those who are into anime are already playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And that's why they didn't pick up Magic, because they already had a card game that they were super into, and that at least what I would have initially expected to appeal to them didn't work because they were already occupied, because Master Duel had come out weeks before that Magic the Gathering set.
Yeah.
So maybe that actually squashed that there.
Yeah, I think that's entirely possible.
Anyway, still, it's been very fun anyways to see Yu-Gi-Oh! Become a thing in the VTuber community in the past several months, that even if I'm so far removed from the meta that I don't understand half the stuff, I still like watching people play it and enjoy it. That I love watching constructed Magic. I don't like playing it. I'll watch it, though.
Then the fun part is, and this is what I really like about watching Niji Sanji stream Master Duel, is like watching them, like, especially Rosemi, who is like, what's a fusion summon? And then 2 weeks later, she's like, okay, my deck needs 3 Mexi, I need 3 Ash Blossom.
Yeah.
And I'm just watching that progression was so good.
Mm-hmm.
That made me so happy. Because that's the thing. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, Yu-Gi-Oh's like really hard to get into. But then, like, it doesn't take that long to, like, pick it up if you're, like, because, like, my brother...
No good card game should be that difficult. That And
Oh.
I'm very convinced that this is a equal thing for Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, and Pokemon. Their bark is worse than their bite. That to an outsider, we've been throwing a lot of jargon out tonight, Ark. And
Yeah,
I
we have.
probably used in a good amount of jargon of Magic that you might not have understood. But it's the type of thing that
I follow.
if you're able to pick it up, it is something that obviously these games are made to be played. They're made to be understandable. That if you take a couple minutes to understand the lexicon and see the cards, they are intuitive. That's why they're a good game. But to an outsider who doesn't know it, they look incredibly intimidating.
Yeah, if someone does full Tearlaments combo, now everyone's like, why did he mill half of his deck? Why is he fusion summoning from his grave? Like, how is he doing this? That's the current best deck right now. You're gonna be lost. But if you know Yu-Gi-Oh, you'd be like, okay, this card does this. They use this card to mill this card.
Yeah, and in terms of instructions, the term is reading the card explains the card.
That's literally all you need to know for Yu-Gi-Oh. It's very semantic, which is funny because Yu-Gi-Oh players will you'll see the VTubers like, oh, I don't want to play Yu-Gi-Oh, and they'll go play League of Legends, which requires like a comparable level of understanding.
We haven't even talked about League.
Oh, true.
We've gotten this far and we haven't even talked about League, Arc.
Oh dear, that's probably a good thing.
But well, no, that you set it up perfectly. That League is a game that you played a lot, and as someone who has watched a lot of League but never really played League,
Keep it that way.
I watch League like I watch football. I know what a quarterback is in football. I know what a wide receiver is in football. I know what a punter is in football. I could not tell you for the life of me what a running back versus a fullback is. I can tell when a first down is gotten. I know what a field goal is. I know what a touchdown is. I can understand what it means when somebody's gotten a 15-yard penalty. Similarly, in League of Legends, I can tell. I know what a tower is. I know what the Nexus is. I know what the Dragon is. I know what the Baron is. I know what a team fight is. I know what an ace is. And I know conceptually what a jungler is.
Oh yeah.
But I sure as hell could not tell you builds. I couldn't tell you pick ban priority or strategy. But I can watch the game and understand the flow of battle in a generic enough sense.
That's good. That's good that you can enjoy it like that. I don't know. I personally find Professional League really boring to watch because it's just like, oh my god, they're farming. They're farming. It's
that
been
is
20
the
minutes.
trouble.
They're
That
still
yeah,
farming.
the opening 15 minutes of a game are always going to be a drag, but then the last 10, 15 are going to be super exciting.
Yeah, I'll just watch another MOBA that's shorter. Skip the farm phase.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I played League ever since I graduated high school. In fact, I remember why I got into League because it was my birthday, and I just done some finals, and World of Warcraft was down, and so I was like, well, what do I play? And then I saw on a Pokemon forum I frequented that be like, oh, League of Legends is a pretty good game, and I was like, oh, it's free, I'll give it a shot. I didn't get it, then I found some videos because I got into League like right when it was starting to pick up steam. Like a month before they started doing like tournament, like casual level tournaments.
Okay.
With hiring players, like I rode that wave, and then I started playing in college. Not that many people played when I was a freshman. I became a sophomore in college. Half the guys on campus know what League is and they're playing it.
University of Maryland was the national champion one year. I have a friend who was an alternate on the national champion team.
Oh wow, jeez. I peaked Gold 2 in League of Legends. I was stubborn and thought I could jungle, but then I picked up support and my win rate doubled. I went from like 30-40% jungle to 70% win rate as support.
Wow.
And I climbed because the beautiful thing about support in video games, guys, is yeah, it's not as flashy, but you're erasing your teammates' mistakes, and whoever makes less mistakes wins the game.
Mm-hmm. And just, I think it's similar in, well, most games, that I feel like that probably applies to, whether it be World of Warcraft, or Dungeons and Dragons, that the support classes are not the flashy ones, that they're not where a lot of folks go, but every party wants one, and if you are good at it, support, you are appreciated.
Yes. That is very true. I like support in League, I like support in MOBAs, I like support in Overwatch. Never got into it in MMOs very much, unless I was a raid healer. I liked raid healing.
Do you think that being into psychology and that line of work had any influence on enjoying being a support, or vice versa?
Probably not at a conscious level. Maybe subconsciously, because there's some like priming. Like, I'm a support class in real life. I'm a support class VTuber because I like make BGMs and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
gosh, you are. I didn't even think about it from that angle, but now you say it, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not usually I'm not usually in the spotlight. I'm usually in backstage, DJing it. But while someone else, which is why that kind of runs the philosophy behind my BGMs, is that it shouldn't be flashy. It's going to be something that plays while you're waiting for something, or something that plays, while somebody is talking.
Mm-hmm.
Or to like build the mood for something, because it's not the spotlight. You're either the opening act, the music that plays as you're ushering people out, or you're, literally background music. So that is a philosophy to keep in mind. So, I don't know, but I like, in games it's a bit different. Like, when I play competitive 6v6 Pokemon, my favorite style is hyper offense, which is like, I'm gonna hit hard and fast because I like big numbers, big damage. It's really satisfying. I think that's like a really fun way to play Pokemon for me. A lot of people disagree with that, but I'm like, it's satisfying. When I play, the MOBA I play right now is Pokemon Unite, and my favorite character is Delphox right now, who is a mage. Yeah. And she hits like a truck. It's so satisfying to full combo a team.
You like your glass cannons.
I like mages. Go figure. Mages are 90% of the time my favorite class. Like in League, when I quit League, when I quit playing Ranked, I had switched to mid mage, because my friend said, "Ark, you've been jungle, you've been support. This guy would like to support. Our friend wants to transition from mid to jungle. Why don't you give mid a shot?" And I was amazing at it. I would go like 25-0. We'd still lose the game because typical MOBA thing, but like I had mage down to a T.
Nice.
In the silver and gold tiers. And it was like, because you push the wave, you go down, you kill them, you push the wave again, kill them, you snowball 2 lanes, and then like, you might fall off late game, but you're still doing huge damage. And that was like so satisfying. And I play mages that are really simple, like Season 1 League mages. Delphox in Pokemon Unite plays like a Season 1 mage. A MOBA that I think a lot of people sleep on, because Blizzard is sleeping on it, is Heroes of the Storm. I really like that MOBA. It's still live and kicking. I played 2 games.
Yeah, no, Heroes of the Storm has gotten a lot of stuff over the years. That it was really, I would say, their second big game after World of Warcraft. Sorry, I shouldn't say their second big game, because I would say it was the, well, no, because Heroes of the Storm happened before Overwatch.
Originally, yes, but it didn't like get its second wave until after Overwatch.
Yes, yeah. That Heroes of the Storm was their follow-up hit to World of Warcraft, because after they did World of Warcraft, I feel like they were sort of heads down on that for a while, or maybe it was their follow-up online hit, because they did have some Diablo console releases, but it was their next online hit, I would say, after World of Warcraft.
It's just sad, because I really, really liked Heroes. I think it's a really good MOBA, and Blizzard just was like, this isn't profitable for us.
Yeah, it wasn't League.
Yeah, well, they tried. That's their problem.
Yeah, they wanted it to be
way too hard. They tried too hard at making it League, and it failed.
Yep.
If they wanted to compete in the MOBA scene, they were too late.
Yeah.
But it's a great MOBA. It's really fun. I played 2 ARAMs on it last night, and I like carried my team, and I was like, I still got it. So, yeah, but I don't know. We brought up League. I know we had this in the Google Doc, but like, I played League for a while, and I really didn't like who I was when I was playing League. I was very like, blame the teammates, cope by not like accounting for what I did wrong. Even like to my own friends, I was just toxic.
The
to be
classic
honest.
toxicity.
Yeah, that was me, and it felt awful. It felt so bad, and it didn't really hit me how bad I was until 2016 when I went to a friend's house, and we were just supposed to be having fun drinking, and there's this other guy playing with us, and he's like very condescending, and then it hit me. I was like, oh my god, is this what I sound like? And that hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, oh my god, I hate this. I gotta change. So I kind of went through my own training arc where I said, like, okay, I'm going to get better. I'm going to solo queue. I'm going to suck it up and deal with it. It made me better. And then after all that time, I was just like, okay, I hit gold. Now what do I do? Then Overwatch came out and I stopped caring.
Ta-da!
Overwatch and then Pokemon Go subsequently. So 2016 was like my detox.
Yeah, well,
out of
2016, the summer of Pokemon Go.
Yeah, that
what
was
an innocent time.
That was the best.
What a summer. What a summer.
So, Jay, you mentioned at the beginning when Animal Crossing first came out, that was like the world united. So we take that and Pokemon Go summer, and that was like the two times we were close.
Because the whole thing was that Pokemon Go summer, everyone was able to be together in the same place physically. And that was like, parks have never been more traversed that, just you could walk down the street and you would see people with their phones out and you'd be like, Pokemon Go, yeah. And that you just knew. And that Pokemon Go was the summer of everyone playing together in person, and Animal Crossing was the summer of everyone playing together at home out of circumstance, but everyone playing together at home.
It was a good time.
That I dropped it after that first summer. It was just I think it was over winter, really, that I didn't have enough stuff to really keep my attention. That was when things weren't, they didn't build out their systems as much in those early days. I know there's a lot now, and I have a couple friends that play it religiously. I'm just sort of too far behind at this point, but I love watching others play.
It's fun. They're all fun. So, 2016 was a really big year for just like my own development and growth. Like, it was just like a very rapid year. Now we're getting to like the whole mental health aspect. So I finished an internship, and I got an internship for grad school because most of your work you do as social work isn't academic. It's all in the internship. It's all practical, which is why I recommend it so much for that experience. But I was in therapy. I had a very short, like fiery, short-lived romantic relationship that was it was questionable, but it still was an important experience to have. I was very humbled by that internship because it like forced me to make all these phone calls and be a lot more outgoing, which in hindsight was an experience I needed to have. Growing pains for the job that I have now. 2016 is when I put out my very first EP that I was happy with. It was a simple synthwave EP. It sold 2 copies, and they were both my friends who bought it for $2. I was very happy.
Yay!
So
friends supporting friends.
Yeah, for real. It was great. So yeah, 2016 was pretty pivotal in that sense.
And I suppose, so then what is your experience with Pokemon? Because Pokemon, once again, is a franchise I grew up with that I was in on the ground floor at 6 years old with. I did not own Red or Blue. The first video game I ever owned was Pokemon Yellow on a yellow Game Boy Color that I got for my 7th birthday. But by the time I got Yellow, I was already knee-deep with the anime and the trading card game. So I was in on Pokemon already, and I have played every generation. I've never done anything remotely competitive with Pokemon, be it in the TCG or the video game or any of the other spin-offs. But I've played most spin-offs, and it remains something that, I'm super excited for Scarlet Violet.
Yep, I had a similar experience. I got into the anime, then the card game, And originally, I had asked my mom for my 6th birthday. I was like, I want the Pokemon TCG Game Boy game.
I did get that one. And you want to talk about good game music? Oh,
I didn't-
Pokemon
so-
TCG for Game Boy
Well, here's
soundtrack
the thing.
slaps.
I didn't remember it because she didn't give me that. She got me Red.
Dang it.
It was an honest mistake, but a very good mistake.
Yeah, hey, at least she knew what Pokemon was. At least she didn't accidentally buy Digimon.
Well, she knew I liked both, but she was like, "Oh, Pokemon Red. Okay, let's get him that."
And frankly, probably in a strictly, it's probably the better game, strictly speaking.
yeah, I mean, it's iconic.
Yeah.
And Pokemon, unlike Yu-Gi-Oh, I never lost interest in.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've always been interested in it for 23, 24 years.
Yeah,
So-
the closest thing I had to a lapse in Pokemon is Gen 2 was the one that I spent the most time on. I put in like 220 hours on my silver cartridge. I started to fall out of it in Gen 3 that I didn't pick up Ruby or Sapphire on release. But when Emerald came out, I saw that, and I was looking to get a new game for my Game Boy Advance that I'd just gotten. And I was like, I loved Silver so much. And yeah, I know I missed out on Ruby Sapphire, but I got Yellow, so let's try Emerald. Got Emerald, and no looking back from there. The closest
Emerald.
thing I came to falling out of Pokemon was missing the front half of Gen 3 during the initial release of Ruby Sapphire, but I picked up Emerald within like 6 months of its release, so I've never missed a generation.
Emerald is my favorite Pokemon game.
It's a really good game.
Yeah, I'm a Gen 3 guy all the way through.
Trumpets,
You know,
baby!
The trumpets, everything about Gen 3. I think it has some of the best designs. It introduced a lot of depth to Pokemon that Pokemon didn't have, and it was
The
a
only
great start.
thing that I don't like about Gen 3, the one thing that I wanted on Gen 3, which obviously got in the remakes, was the special physical split that came in Gen
Yes.
4. That's the only piece that keeps original Gen 3 from being perfect.
The funniest part about that is that no one knew we wanted that until Gen
Till we
4
got
was like, yeah, we're doing this. We're like, oh my god, this fixes so much.
Yeah, no, it was the type of thing that when I first saw it, I thought that it had always been there and it just hadn't been visualized. And then I later learned, oh no, it used to be that water was always special, and that's why Gyarados was kind of weird, and why certain moves behaved differently. And now it all makes sense, but like, that's the one thing that whenever I go back and either watch others playing, or if I want to revisit one of those games, I need to remember, okay, this is pre-physical special split.
Yep, that's a big key for playing games like Emerald, or like Emerald ROM hacks or Nuzlocke.
Yeah. But still, Gen 3 is amazing. My favorite is Gen 2, it's mostly nostalgia. I love the music in Gen 2 to death. Just, oh my gosh. The
Music, Gen 2's music is
something
great.
about the chippiness in Gen 2, just for me, and it's probably because, like, I spent 220 hours plus on that game, that it hits to this day the champion / red fight of just dun 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 dun. Oh, chills every time.
National Park influenced a lot of stuff.
Ooh, National Park's so good.
National Park speech, yep. It's funny you mentioned that, Jay. I actually will contend that the one thing that keeps Gen 2 good in the original Gen 2, I think Heart Gold, Soul Silver are really good remakes.
Oh yes.
I think Gen 2 is mid. Like taking the nostalgia glasses.
Oh yeah,
off.
no. From a purely objective standpoint, Gen 2 is not a particularly good gen. The level curve is super weird. It's the thing that
Yes.
everybody says, but everyone says it for a reason.
He gets it.
The-
The Pokemon,
I-
the
I
Pokemon
had-
availabilities
I had the-
suck.
I have the full respect and understanding that the one that I hold near and dear is through the rosiest of tinted glasses. I will
Yep.
acknowledge that openly.
Yeah, like I love Gen 2 if I look at it with those glasses too, for the same reason, because I loved Silver. I pumped so many hours into Silver just like you. So
Yeah, but just if you're looking at it from an academic sense, from a balanced sense, No, it's just all about the weird level curve that I think it has some of the best locales. I think the best locale design, like for its time in Gen 3, just the graphical difference from the Game Boy Color to the Game Boy Advance was so substantial that, walking over the bridges in Fortress City or walking over the little floating things in Pacific Log Town, I think it was that one.
Oh yeah.
Just the environments became so much more immersive than they ever could be. I think that some of the Gen 1 obviously has the most iconic because it's Gen 1. It's Gen 1. But Gen 2, in how it fleshed out the world, really started to build out lore for the first time, because there was effectively no lore in Gen 1. All you got were the Mewtwo diary entries in the Cinnabar Mansion.
Yep.
And that's the closest thing you got. There was no explanation for the birds. There was nothing else really. But there was the Runes of Alph. Runes of Alph, my man. Just, oh. And, yeah. And that critique. Ugh.
Ooh, Ecritique.
Love it.
Yeah, they
Love it.
more. I will tell you this, Jay, it is getting close to midnight. Where
It
I am,
is,
so
yes.
we can do. I'm good for another 20 minutes or so.
Yeah.
So if there's any key points that you want to hit,
Well, no, I'm gonna flip that around on you. That in these last 20 minutes, what do you want to talk about? That is there anything that we haven't gotten to yet that you really want to make sure we get to?
Let me look at our thing. We covered a lot of the big
have
stuff.
your writing as one thing that we haven't really gotten to, and I suppose we haven't really talked much about mental health at large.
So let me briefly talk about writing, and then we can talk about mental health, and then I think mental health will funnel into what we got going on here. So I think that's a perfect order. So one thing that we talked about before stream was my history with writing, and so I used my ASMR channel has clearly fallen off. I haven't uploaded anything in there in months, over a year. And I have some really good shitpost ideas that I just haven't had the motivation to actually voice and edit. So I like writing scripts. I really like role building. A big thing on there is that a lot of my ASMR that's like more serious on that channel is based off of the world I built in my light novel that I wrote up until I started VTubing. That light novel hit 150 pages on Google Docs. It is still not done. I was going for 200-page light novel. I don't know if that's a light novel anymore, but it was a fantasy that took place in like a D&D game that had like game sentience, and it was kind of like an abandoned D&D game, so like the campaign was never finished, and like it was different factions trying to, like, this is all subtle, this isn't hidden too, but like every character does rolls for perception and stuff. They do it all by themselves. And there's a lot of lore that's left unfinished. The characters got to kind of figure it out and finish the campaign. And there's two sides, there's two guilds, which are supposed to represent the two different factions that you could join. But the characters have a lot of depth to them. So those characters there's two characters in particular, the main character and the Lich. The Lich was supposed to be a comic relief that also was like starting to become kind of a serious character.
Gosh. I enjoy powerful characters being written as comic relief in general.
Yeah, he's very chuny, but he's like he's very powerful right off the bat.
Well, the only thing scarier than a Chuny is a Chuny with actual power.
Right, but like he very quickly realizes that because he's a Lich, he's like, wow, people hate me because I'm an undead. That sucks. But then he also says, but when I was alive as a human, like people still hated me just because they could like abuse me for like, because his name was Sane Shoemaker, and he was just like a tailor in a tailor's guild. And the tailor's guild was like really mean, made him into like this basically an indentured servant type of thing. And then he died, was resurrected by a cult, and he's like, oh sick, I'm free of them. I'm this super badass Lich. I can shoot like death magic out of my fingers. This rules. So like it's like him like giving the second chance at a life he wasn't given in life. So that was the story I was going to build in the second story, where the idea I had was I really liked the first few episodes of Rising of the Shield Hero in early 2019. That anime fell off so fucking hard. It's
That's
not
what I
even
heard.
funny.
That I never was into it, but I've heard that
Dude.
season 2 was rough, and obviously
I didn't touch season
they
2.
did
It does not
sadly,
look good.
and they did sadly just lose the gentleman who played Takafumi, I think is the name of the
Oh
protagonist.
shit! I didn't know that.
The VA's name is Billy Kametz. He sadly passed away earlier this year.
Oh damn! I didn't know that for the English stuff. Wow.
Yeah. That they are recasting it. That he got cancer. And so it was.
Wow, damn it.
He stepped back, and he knew what his diagnosis was at the time. That they sadly caught it pretty late. But before he passed, that he handed off the role to someone else, and he told the fans, I have stepped back from this role knowing that I'm probably not going to be able to do much acting. I support this new actor. He passed knowing that the role was being taken by someone else, and that had that seal of approval. So that is being carried on, but it is another unfortunate piece to that particular franchise.
Oh dear. Yeah. So basically, I wrote this because Shield Hero is kind of based on that in terms of the isekai thing. So what I wrote is, what if we wrote it from a woman's perspective? I like writing female main characters. I don't know why. I'm just drawn to writing them more. And it was just sort of what if? Because the whole premise of Naofumi is he's framed for doing something, and I was like, that is
I don't know why I said Takafumi.
Close enough. He's framed for committing some atrocities that he didn't do, and I was like, bold move. Not sure we should go with the false accusation route right now.
That's one of the things that I heard when it was initially released, that it came out at a bad time.
Yeah, in terms of PC climate, I was like, that's a questionable move, bro. Interestingly enough, a woman wrote Shield Hero, by the way, so take that for what you will. So I said, what if I flip the script? What if this actually does happen to her? She tries to call it out, and they chastise her, and that's exactly what happens. That's
the realistic approach.
Yep, I kind of went with that. So she's in the best guild. She's there because she's super strong, and the whole thing is this rare weapon drops, and they're rolling for it. And she's like, "Well, I topped the DPS meter. You should give it to me." And everyone's they're like, "Oh, do we really want to give it to her?" And then the guild's like, "Well, I mean, she topped the DPS meter, so I think we have to give it to her." So, but then her guildmates kind of turn on her, and they start doing really mean stuff to her, and then she calls it out. And they're like, "No, you didn't. You're a liar. You're out of the guild. How dare you accuse somebody like that?" So, it's her joining another guild. She saves some people from indentured servitude along the way. And I think I got to a part where she is she's taking a walk to find herself. She winds up having to kill somebody on the path over because he was a player killer, like you would in RuneScape's Wilderness, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he tries to kill her, so she has to kill him, and then she's like, "Oh my god!" But yeah, self-defense. And the guy had killed multiple people because he's a player killer. So, but it's what if player killers were in real life? But if the game world was real, this is what a player killer would be like. And it's really messed up. Yeah, I got into some dark writing there, but I think she got into fantasy therapy, and then I was like, I don't want to write this.
Oh no!
I mean, I based the therapist character off of my therapist.
Yeah, and then it became too close to reality to be.
I think the problem with it, Jay, is that I actually couldn't fully relate to her story well enough, and I wasn't confident in telling her story. Because I hadn't experienced all of that. And I was like, well, I think I need to step back, and I haven't touched it ever since. And I knew how the story was gonna end after they get through that. Because she was gonna meet up with the people that she saved at the beginning of the story, and they're like, "Oh, you saved our lives. We wouldn't be heroes just like you." And then she's like, "Oh wow, maybe I can make a difference."
So this is a total spitball.
Yeah.
Do you think there would be an avenue to complete the story from a different character's perspective who you do identify more with, and that you don't necessarily show your initial protagonist and everything that she goes through, but that can you do something where you write in parallel to it, that you can hit the major story beats you want, even if you don't necessarily hit all of the character beats you want, to facilitate the presentation of the ending that you had in mind for that character.
That was very articulate, and I had a huge light bulb go off the second you started talking. When you said the first few words, yes, there isn't a solution. I write it from the therapist's perspective.
Ding.
Yep, that would be the way to do it, or at least. And I mean, the whole story is told through like this, like trickster god narrator.
Ooh, trickster gods, very funny.
Well, he basically, what he does is that the narrator is part of the guild, and he offers you like, hey, I will show you what is on the other side of the map, but it comes at a curse, and you don't know what the curse is.
Ooh.
And the curse is like, he's basically an eldritch being. So the curse is like, their luck stack gets all fucked up, or, whatever. So, like, I haven't written that far, but I know, like, every time he offers them knowledge, there is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of the ASMR script I was doing. So that's the writing. I want to continue it. ASMR gave me, like, little vignettes to tell through storytelling, which was very fun. As for mental health as a day job, it's no secret. Mental health plays a big role. My family has a lot of mental health issues. Mental health has been a thing in my family. My youngest brother has had a lot of mental health issues. I've been to therapy because I was very socially anxious. Kind of want to go back at some point. I think that'd be beneficial to iron out some kinks, so to speak. I've been a therapist for over 5 years at this point. It's my day job. It's why I don't make that much content as much as I'd want to, just because that, obviously I gotta see clients. I gotta help people with really important problems in their life. So it's something I just want to keep doing, and I like to incorporate that mental health into VTubing space because, chat, I'm sure you agree with me on this. Jay, I'm sure you agree with me on this. If you're on Twitter, or if you're like watching streams or watching other things drama unfold, the common thing is that you can be validated in these spaces, but you're not processing anything. And the one thing I want to do, and this is one of my goals for being a VTuber, is opening up conversations people are currently too uncomfortable to have. Because once they open that door up, and I'm not saying like I'm going to tell people like that you should talk about your problems to each other. That's not what I'm saying. Like at least consider the idea of opening up these conversations, because I think the VTuber community was known for being really wholesome, and frankly I think it's been corrupt, to be blunt, which is why I withdraw from some of the bigger indie scenes, because I think it's just corrupt by the concept of social media. And it's like, that's because you can't get a whole story out in a 140 280 character tweet. You're not going to be able to be your full self on stream all the time. You can't say everything. If you can at least answer some questions, that stuff like and address your own mental health stuff, address your own expectations, I think that we can do some more wonderful things. And if not in the VTuber space, just for any individual that's willing to like consider that. And it doesn't have to be me either. It doesn't have to be me doing that. It's just something I want to see. That was a very long-winded, probably pretentious sounding answer for something, but
well, I think it is a very reasonable thing to say. I hope that people are able to find healthy ways to process emotions and conflicts, and if I can find a way to help facilitate that, I would like to.
You said it way better than me. Let's go with that.
I word good sometimes.
You do. You word very good a lot of the time, and I appreciate that. Yeah, but yeah, that's like my end goal with something like mental health magic. So, let me talk about that. The last mental health magic guest I had was Turbo, who's not a VTuber, but Turbo has done some very, very bangerific remixes, like crazy crazy talented guy, very very young, very talented young man with his Eurobeat, and I had him on, which I was very flattered to have him on. Great guy to talk to, just really genuine. And it was the whole point of that was like I really hope people can learn from him like what his experience with content creation was, and his experience with like being like this almost like this prodigy of Eurobeat. The thing is, a lot of people didn't like his stuff at first at all. He like struck gold. He found something he was good at. He kept making it, and now he's carved a huge niche for himself, and he's really damn good at it.
And the problem in the beginning, if anything, was he was so far ahead of the curve that folks were not familiar with his style, perhaps. But as they acclimated to it, they realized how good he was.
Yeah, he said it took him maybe like 5 or 6 remixes for him to like start hitting a stride, and he's never like ridden that wave off. And you know, like for him, music is so passion driven, where like, you know, the guy will work like 16, 17, 18-hour work days, like working on a remix, then go to sleep. But that's just what he does. Like it's not like
if you're able to find a way to make it healthy.
Yeah, he seems fine to me. But you know, he said he came from a really dark place. He didn't know what he was doing with his life. He found music, and he said, "I can do that," and he just kept at it, and it worked. So, like, just that story is something that you wouldn't normally hear. And I think every content creator, every single one, has a story that, if not their audience, maybe somebody can hear, and it'll make a difference. And then maybe that person will feel better about telling their story. So that's what one of my goals would be.
Mm-hmm. Well, as we're starting to get near that time limit, I have 2 questions that I always use to wrap up my shows. And the first is, do you have any goals for the remainder of the year? So we are just about to be in October, just about to get into spooky season. Last quarter of the year is here. Do you have any goals for the remainder of 2022? And that can be something, it could be metrics-based, it could be project-based, it could be, you know, I want to complete X number of commissions, or I want to get Mental Health Magic back up and running in, you know, even one show, and that's the goal. Or it could be something more nebulous. That, do you have anything that you want to get by the end of the year?
You kind of hit the nail on the head with a lot of those. One, metrics be damned. No point in caring about that. Mental Health Magic, I would like to at least have one more show by the end of 2022. I want to finish my commissions that are all due within a month. I'm ahead of the game, so we're fine. Maybe open up another 1 or 2. And put that album out next month or in October. That's pretty much it. That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Keep it simple.
And then the last question I ask all my guests is, what does being a VTuber mean to you? And that's not what is the definition of a VTuber, but I find that different people get different things from being a VTuber, and that I've had folks answer and say, I use it to be someone that I can't be in real life, or I've had someone say, it lets me get in touch with my inner child. I've had others take a bit of a more clinical approach and say, it's a tool in my toolbox as a content creator. It's a mask that I wear to entertain others. And those 2 pretty different answers, and everything in between and beyond, are totally valid. But I find that most people have something in particular that they get or experience. So for you, Arkhand, what does being a VTuber mean to you?
The best and most succinct way I can describe it is that Arkhand the VTuber, and as a character, is the bridge between my current self and the self I want to be.
That is something that I've never had it said in those words, but I think that you are in good company with a lot of folks in the VTubing community, whether it be in such succinct terms or not, that there are very few VTubers out there that don't have some significant portion of their true selves as their VTuber, but also, like I said, it also allows us to show our idealized self or what we aspire to. And that for you, as someone who is in the field of mental health, I am not surprised to see, or rather to hear that answer and to hear it in such succinct terms.
I think that's the best way to describe it.
Mm-hmm. Well, this has been so much fun, and
Yeah.
I get the feeling like we need to just chat more, Ark, because that it has been sort of uncanny that you didn't mention marching band when we spoke earlier this week. We just stumbled into that and spent an hour on it.
Yeah, we really did.
And it, Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon, obviously those are two really deep ones, and like I feel like we only scratched the surface with Pokemon, and there's gonna be a lot there. Obviously, mental health is, I think, something that everyone can talk about in some capacity, and it's just finding which ways to talk about it are best for different people. But like, there's everything like that, and obviously I cannot wait to hear the completed Animal Crossing album. I think that's going to be awesome, and just whether you take my idea or not for the writing, that I hope you were able to continue to have writing as a creative outlet, and just wish you all the best, man. Thank you so much for being on the show. This has been a blast.
Well, thank you for having me. It was my pleasure. This was fun.
Definitely. And thank you to all of you in chat. Sir William V, I've seen you in there. Kenzie Sanderson and others. Thank you so much for being here. Follow, if you like, here on Twitch and Twitter. For me, it's just Vtuber Talk. And if for some reason you aren't already following the Arkhand, be sure to. It is _Arkhand currently. But well, I'm saying follow the Arkhand because I'm referring to the handle. I'm not referring to you as the Arkhand. You're just Ark.
Well, the reason I'm Arkhand is because when I switched my name in League of Legends, Arkhand was taken. So I'm like, no, I'm the Arkhand. And Arkhand is always taken. So for whatever reason, it's a very fantasy, edgy name. So
I generally don't ask folks like, where did you get your name? Where did you get your model? Is Arkhand though from something particular?
No, it's because my friend in middle school, his name was Clockhand, and I was like, I thought about that like a decade later. I was like, that sounds cool. I'm Arkhand.
Ta-da!
That's literally it.
And just like the Ohio State University, you are the Arkhand.
Yep. It's just me.
Yeah. Awesome. Do you have someone you would like us to raid?
Let's see. I think of anyone in particular. I was like, VTuber Talk streaming.
Yeah, you don't say.
Real. Is there anyone that you've had like as a guest in the past that is streaming right now that maybe like started just recently?
I'm actually gonna need to grab my phone to check who's live because the stream will chug if I try to pull this up on my computer. Let's see here. This is actually episode number 78 of VTuber Talk, so it is very rare for there to never be a guest that I have had that isn't live. Right now, going from the highest current viewer counts, we've got Giga, Poki, Muga, Duper.
I know.
Muga's the one I May.
Muga's the one I know.
All right, you want to go over to Muga? I'm guessing she is doing ASMR, so it's going to get a lot quieter over here real quick.
Oh, perfect.
But I did see some folks actually using Muga's emotes earlier in the stream anyways, so that actually seems
our audiences do overlap.
Yep. All righty, cool. Well, I'm going to send you all over to Muga. We're going to get the outro here, but like I said, definitely follow Ark if you aren't already. You can follow me if you like as well, but this is a pretty busy week for me that... on Friday, I'm going to be over on Ellie and Booster's channel as part of a Phoenix Wright trial that I'm going to be a part of prosecution there. And Booster. And then on Saturday, I'm going to be talking with Lady from TVS, Things VTubers Say. So that's going to be a very fun one as well. Already have that and a couple other shows lined up for later in October. So the show rolls on here at VTuber Talk as I stumble over my words right here at the end. But yes, thank you all so much for joining in. Thank you again, Ark. This has been a blast. Say hi to Muga, and I will see you all next time.
Peace.